I might make a joke and somebody over here, next thing you know, it'll be a news story.
Walk right up here, grab it, walk right by here, just ring it that mic.
What's the red button mean?
Mic's on. And they have told me that these mics are pretty sensitive. You don't have to like get right up in them or anything. You just sit in your normal position and talk.
You're just like, no connection for just a second.
I actually draw the question out of the envelope and then one of the students is going to come up and ask.
Joe's going to go over the 4 rules when we get started. Can you do me a favor? If you have some cell phones, some silence, please. We'll have live audio going on and everything. Appreciate everybody coming out. Joe Myers, our moderator, is going to read a few rules to get it started off. Open up this forum, educational. Appreciate everybody coming out, taking part of the process. So appreciate y'all coming. We'll get started here in just a few seconds.
Cody, you got me all right over there? Okay. You all know where the timekeeper is, right? It's James sitting right there in the front row. Okay. Okay.
We'll start 30 seconds, everybody.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's political forum sponsored by WCLU Radio, Commonwealth Broadcasting, Job Publishing, and the Glasgow Daily Times in cooperation with the Barren County Republican Party and the Barren County Democratic Party. The Glasgow Electric Plant Board has also agreed to broadcast tonight's forum. I'm Joe Myers with WCLU, and I'll be the moderator of tonight's event. Before we get started, here's some information on how questions were selected and how tonight's events will proceed. Media outlets asked the public to submit questions for our candidates over the past 2 weeks. On Tuesday, the 4 gentlemen seated to my left here at the table, Wes Royce, James Brown, Jeff Job, and Daniel Suddeth of our local media outlets got together to narrow down the questions. Those questions were then sealed and have not been shared with anyone prior to tonight's forum. The questions will be drawn by me and then will be asked by our panel of local students who are sitting here in the front row. From Barren County High School, those students are Wesley Clark, Brennan Crane, Laurel Mays, and Lily Shipley. And from Glasgow High School, they are Eli Travis, Cade Bishop, Parker Bannister, and Abigail Meadows. Based on a coin toss before the forum, the first candidate will be asked a question and given 2 minutes to respond. Then the second candidate will also be given 2 minutes to respond to the same question. After that, the first candidate will have an opportunity for 1 minute rebuttal, and then the other candidate will be given 1 minute for rebuttal. The candidates will then go in reverse order for the next question. Each candidate will also be given 2 minutes for an opening statement and 2 minutes for a closing statement. Our timekeeper, James Moore, who's sitting right here in the front row, will signal to the moderator and the candidates when they have 15 seconds remaining, and then again when their time has expired. Please be aware that there will be a 3-minute break between each race to allow the next set of candidates to make their way to the front of the room. And any candidates that are here, I would ask you that as the race before you is coming to an end, if you will make your way up here to the left towards Daniel and Wes and Jeff. They will kind of get you ready for that next set of questions, or for that next race, I should say, do a coin toss and things of that nature. We do thank you in advance for your respect toward all Barren County general election candidates and your adherence to the etiquette guidelines. We are on a tight schedule, and audience interruptions will only cause delays in the program. As Daniel said, I would also ask that everybody in here please silence your cell phones. We don't need those interruptions either. There are some general rules for the evening, and I want to go through those real quick. Number one, please pay attention. The audience is to remain silent throughout the debate. You may only applaud once all candidates in each race have finished answering all questions and have given their closing statements. So once they finish their closing statements, you're more than welcome to applaud. The candidates may not ask a question to another candidate. Candidates must remain quiet while their opponent is answering a question. No pre-written notes will be allowed at the candidates' table. All questions have been submitted by the public prior to the debate and chosen solely by the media panel. They have not been shared with any forum committee members or candidates prior to the debate. Candidates will be drawn at random to see who answers a question first. That order will be reversed for the second question. No questions from the audience will be taken. And per Judicial Ethics Code Rule 4.0, judge or judicial candidate shall not publicly identify him or herself as a nominee of a political organization. Judicial candidates cannot seek, accept, or use endorsements from a political organization. We do appreciate your attendance and our candidates for joining us this evening, and we do hope this serves as an informative and positive experience prior to our November 6th election. With that being said, our first set of candidates are for county attorney, and they are Republican Mike Richardson and Democrat Catherine Thomas. And Catherine won the coin toss to get the first question, so that means Mike will get 2 minutes for his opening statement. Mike?
Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure being here. I'm Mike Richardson. I'm actually your assistant county attorney. I'm currently in my third year of doing that. The job of the county attorney's office is to mainly prosecute criminal offenses that happen in Barren County. He also serves as a civil advisor to the county government. We also do other things like collect unpaid property taxes and aid in people filing for guardianship. But my main job as an assistant is prosecuting those criminal offenses. And I got to say, in the 3 years I've been doing that job, we've done some amazing things in district court. We have brought an air of accountability in district court. When I came in, there was a lot of, the big thing was the repeat offenders. And I've said that from the beginning of my campaign. The biggest thing was punishing repeat offenders. And I'm not talking about the people that might be in there for the first or even the second time. Those are not the type of people we have problems with. We have a huge problem with the revolving door. And I think we've brought an air of accountability. And there's quite a few people we don't really see anymore. And I think it's working. The other thing that we also did was I went out and got training, and we have started prosecuting prescription drug DUIs. What's one of the largest problems we have in the county as elsewhere is DUIs. We'll always have problems with alcohol and illegal drug DUIs, like if someone's high on meth or some other type of illegal drug. But the prescription drug DUIs are important, and because of a lack of training, we weren't prosecuting those like we were supposed to. We're prosecuting those now. We're holding those people accountable, and at times getting them help. Because the opioid crisis that Northern Kentucky is facing today is largely due to, and largely starts from addiction that starts with painkillers. We're holding those people accountable, and a lot of times we're getting them help. The other thing that I also took upon myself is to hold abusers accountable. I take violence against women, especially in this day and age, seriously. And I'm proud to say that a few weeks ago, the Barren County Attorney's Office obtained its first conviction under the new revenge porn statute. And we intend to keep prosecuting those and let women know, women who have suffered from violence, they have a place to turn to in Barren County.
Catherine, 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you. I'm Catherine Thomas. I'm a candidate for Barren County Attorney. I am so pleased to see so many here in attendance tonight, and I want to first say that I'm grateful for this opportunity for you all to get to know us better so that you can participate in an educated way in the process of voting. So thank you, first of all, to all of those who worked together to make this happen. Thank you for you all for attending. And also thank you to all of those that are at home watching this from the comfort of their homes. The Barren County Attorney's Office, well, let me back up. Let me tell you a little bit about myself first. I want you to know a little bit about me. I grew up in Warren County in Smiths Grove, near the Hayes community. I grew up on a dairy farm there. In 2006, I began working here in Barren and Metcalfe counties as an assistant Commonwealth attorney's in the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office as an assistant Commonwealth's attorney. In that capacity, I prosecuted primarily drug offenses, felony drug offenses in Barren and Metcalfe counties. In March of 2009, I opened private practice, and I've been a practicing attorney here on the square since then. I have been practicing law for, it'll be 15 years in 2019, and I very much enjoy what I do. I'm running for Barren County Attorney because I want to preserve this community. And what I mean when I say that, when I started working here in 2006, it took me no time at all to know that this is exactly where I wanted to live, and it's where I wanted to eventually raise a family. And I believe that in the Barren County Attorney's Office, an office that affects so many citizens in Barren County, it's not just about criminals and those that we prosecute in district court, but it ranges from a variety of issues, and many of you will have contact with the Barren County Attorney's Office, and I look forward to serving you.
Thank you, Catherine. All right, we're ready for our first question. If one of my students will come up, and this will be directed towards Ms. Thomas.
What is the most important responsibility of the county attorney?
You know, this was a question, interestingly enough, that was on the Glasgow Daily Times questionnaire, and I hope some of you have read that in my response to that. I will tell you, because there are so many areas of responsibilities of the county attorney's office, it is quite difficult to narrow down to one. We do prosecute misdemeanors in district court. We handle all traffic violations. We handle guardianships of adults who can no longer care for themselves, and you may need the assistance of the court to step in and say you have the right to handle that person's affairs. County attorney serves as legal counsel to county government. We also prosecute juvenile offenses. We also handle the dependency, neglect, and abuse cases that are in family court. So with all of those responsibilities, I will say this: I believe that the most important function or responsibility of who you elect as Barren County Attorney is to remember all of those people that you're there to serve. I believe it's important to be accessible. I believe it's important to understand that whether you are a small business owner and you're interested in how you're going to collect those cold checks that you've received, whether you are a grandmother who's concerned about the environment that their grandchild is living in, whether you're a single parent who's trying to make ends meet in order to care for their family. We also collect child support in the Barren County Attorney's Office. It's important to remember that we need to be accessible and eager to serve all citizens, and it's more than just about prosecuting misdemeanors.
Mr. Richardson?
Well, the most important function is the criminal prosecution part, but the beauty, and Ms. Thomas kind of alluded to it, the beauty of the county attorney's office is the county attorney's office, we're able to touch on different parts of people's lives. I mean, everything from juvenile court, and it's sad sometimes, a lot of times we may end up prosecuting kids for crimes that they may have gotten involved in with their parents. We might be prosecuting their parents too. And that's a sad part about doing it. But, you know, doing this job, and one thing that I've learned is we have an ability to change people's lives, whether it's getting that kid out of that broken home, or out of that home where maybe the parents left meth next to the baby bottles, and punishing those parents and getting those kids in a better home and better environment. The sooner we can put off drug use in juveniles, the studies have shown the better chance they have at not abusing drugs at a later age. You know, we've caught kids early. We brought them into court, not so much to punish them, but to rehabilitate them and let them know that doing drugs is bad and it's going to create issues in your life. And we've been able to intervene at the right times for those and hold people accountable. And we are accessible. we're absolutely accessible at that office. Every day we get people that walk in. That's the other important function is anybody can walk into the county attorney's office, and a lot of time we'll get people who are victims of abuse or have something going on in their neighborhood or some other issue. They may feel like they can't turn to anyone else. You know, this is a state where officers just can't arrest people and pick them up off the street. A lot of times, especially for misdemeanors and for most misdemeanor offenses, they have to witness those things. A lot of times they can't make those arrests. Those people come to our office when they have nowhere else to turn, and they come and get our help. And that's what I've strived to do. That's really the reason why I want to be county attorney is we've got an ability in this office to create such a huge effect in people's lives, and we've been able to accomplish that. And that's one thing I love doing. This is the one job I truly, absolutely love. I get up every single day wanting to go to work to make a difference here in Barren County. I think I've done that.
Ms. Thomas, another minute if you'd like it.
Yes, thank you. I certainly want to express that prosecution of drug offenses is a large role. We have had 2,800 cases, misdemeanor cases that come through district court. In 2017, there were 597 felony offenses that came through district court and prosecuted, therefore, by the Barren County Attorney. It is definitely a large portion of the cases that are handled in that office, and certainly important in this community. The drug epidemic is here, as it is in most all rural counties in Kentucky. I would like to be able to have a positive impact on people when they are coming through court with their first-time offense. If we are able to keep from branding that person to continue this path and instead help them, then we don't only help them, we help our community, we help their family, we help their children. And then punishment, of course, would come at a time if we see them again.
Mr. Richardson, one more minute.
I just got to say that, you know, it's not really, I'm in district court just about every day. You know, we don't usually have problems with people that are there for the first or second time. We have opportunities available. You know, if someone gets caught with pot, or maybe they stole a $5 pair of sunglasses, we find ways to make sure that those things don't stay on their record. The biggest issue in Barren County, and it's something that citizens always complain about all the time, and that is the repeat offenders, the people that don't care. You give an inch, they take a mile. They shake your hand, you know, you shake their hand, they take your arm. Those are the type of people that we have been holding accountable the past few years, and I think we've so far seen a difference, and it's a cultural thing. We're changing the tone in district court, and I think people are starting to take it more seriously now when they come to court.
Thank you all. We're ready for our next question. The next student will come up. This will be directed to Mr. Richardson.
How would you ensure child support is paid fairly and efficiently?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because one of the issues the next county attorney is going to face is we faced a cut in child support. Actually, I was at the firm's with the firm's account the other day. We were talking about the big issue with the budget being cut. But to answer the question specifically about whether collecting child support fairly, I mean, when young mothers, mostly it's young mothers, come to the office, come and apply for services and try to get that money that is owed to them, and when people don't pay, you know, by law we have to help those women. It could be men too, who are trying to collect that child support. You know, when I was a public defender before I was a prosecutor, and I used to defend child support cases, and I really hated doing those cases, because one of the things I noticed was there was a lot of people that could spend a lot of money on cigarettes, but couldn't spend the money to support the children that they were not around to take care of. So as far as doing it fairly, you know, we give people a chance to make those payments and to make that child support. And when they don't do it, we're going to take them to court, and we're going to have them answer for it. And it's a shame that people can spend money on things they don't need, but don't spend the money on their children. So as far as doing it fairly, we will take them to court, we will enforce it, and we will make sure that a lot of these families can get the money that they need at the time they need it.
Ms. Thomas, 2 minutes.
Thank you. On the issue of child support, there is a criminal aspect to that. By statute, if someone gets $1,000 behind in child support, you can actually charge that individual with a felony, flagrant non-support. that hasn't been utilized very much in Barren County. And I tend to think that if we do address that on a criminal level, that somehow that child support will probably get paid. Especially if they are able to avoid having a criminal record because of it. Now, I understand that there are people that come on hard times, and when I talk about going at it from a criminal perspective, I'm speaking to those parents who just don't pay and don't make any effort. I guess I have a unique perspective to this because I became a mom in a non-traditional way about 18 months ago when I became guardian to a little girl. So her name is Avery, and she was 7 then, and she's a month shy of being 9 now. It's been the most incredible thing that's ever happened to me, but I can tell you that it is a large financial responsibility to raise a child. And I know personally what those single parents are going through when nothing's coming in on the other side. I certainly will take that perspective with me to the county attorney's office. I will touch on one other thing. There are budget cuts. The county attorney's office and any state agency is pretty much in the same boat these days. In Kentucky, there are budget cuts across the board. But what I have found is that maybe we haven't been seeking that money to come here to Barren County. And we need an advocate in Frankfort with their hand out time and time again so that we don't get looked over and we can be more efficient in our offices.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas.
Well, I assure you, if I'm county attorney, I'm not just sitting on my hands and taking these budget cuts lying down. You know, we're going to be talking to somebody. I don't know who, but we're going to find out. But as far as prosecuting, flagrant non-support cases are prosecuted in Barren and Metcalfe County. The problem with those cases, the thing that we've run into lately is when you signal that you're going to prosecute them for a criminal offense, typically the defense lawyer will have them plead the fifth. And that is problematic in child support, in family court with child support, because then then if they don't testify, we're not able to get enough information to establish that they have an ability to pay. Here in Kentucky, you have to that if there is shown that they lack an ability to pay, you cannot send them to jail, and jail is the only tool we have to get people, a lot of times the ones who are not ever paying, to pay. So those are issues. We're working through them, but those are certainly things that we're going to have to address.
1 minute, Ms. Thomas.
All I would say in follow-up is that I do want to commend those that we have that do work at the county child support office. I've met with them recently, and they are under a very tight budget there, and I know that they have made personal sacrifices, even sometimes an employee that took a pay cut just so another employee could keep a job. And that's the kind of community we live in, and that should make us feel good about ourselves. It certainly made me feel good to know that and to hear that. I will be an advocate in Frankfort for them not to forget us. We have so many other responsibilities in the county attorney's office, in the child support office now. The demands of them are very high. They have to submit several reports. So it's like their job responsibilities have gone up, yet their money's gone down. And I want to be able to help them get the funding they need so that they can fulfill all of that. And I only want to say that because I know they had 2,800 cases, active cases in 2017 in the child support office. I do know they are working. We will work to make it better.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. All right, each candidate now will have 2 minutes for their closing statement, and Ms. Thomas will go first.
Again, I just want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank again the sponsors for hosting this event. I am working tirelessly to cover this county, and it's a large county, to personally ask each one of you for your vote. I know that tonight we have several in attendance and we have several that are watching, so for those of you that are here and that are watching at home, I hope that you will consider this, from me, a personal ask. I want your vote for Barren County Attorney. If I haven't made it to your door yet, it's not for lack of trying. I spent a few hours this afternoon, that's why I got here right at the buzzer, knocking on doors. Campaigning it's a busy job. It's all-consuming, but I can tell you that being out in this community and getting to know more the people that I call neighbors, it is very fulfilling, and it only inspires me more to want to give back to this community in a way that hopefully I can make a difference and make Barren County and Glasgow a place that we always want to raise a family. Thank you very much.
Mr. Richardson, 2 minutes.
When I started my campaign over a year ago, the first thing, I guess you call a slogan that I had was ready on day one. I'm in my third year as being assistant county attorney. I was a public defender 2 years before that. I worked my way through law school, and through law school I was doing the type of job at a civil litigation firm that's normally reserved for first-year associates in bigger firms as lawyers. Radio on day one, something I live by. I'm a former United States Marine. I give everything 100%. And as a prosecutor, I give 100%. Every day I wake up, I try to find different ways to help people, to try to help them through their tough times. Whether it's a family that comes to the office begging me to keep their child in jail just a few more days just to get them into rehab, or if it's trying to help a young lady that's being stalked and thinks she has nowhere else to turn, or maybe it's a mother that needs help on child support. It's one of the most satisfying jobs that I've had. But the big thing is trying to bring that accountability to district court. If you're a regular district court prosecutor, you handle mostly misdemeanor cases. A lot of times you can just throw your hands up and feel like you can't make a difference. Oh, it's just small stuff. It's just public intoxication. It's just this, little shoplifting. What can I do? Or you can roll your sleeves up and get to work. We can make an impact. We have a large impact on cases where people maybe were charged with felonies and they're on their way to circuit court. Maybe they violated their bond conditions. Maybe they got a DUI and they're out doing another DUI, and you file a motion to revoke their bond. It's those little things holding people accountable. But more than just that, it's about keeping the people of Barren County safe and making sure that people who are out on bond or not doing what they're supposed to be doing are held accountable. So I humbly ask for your vote. No one is guaranteed this position for any reason, but I humbly ask for your vote. I'm not entitled to it just because I'm the assistant. But I love this job, and I assure you, I'm ready on day one, and I'm asking for your vote.
Thank you both for your participation. Let's give them a round of applause. We'll take a three-minute break. Next up will be the family court judge race. We'll stick them back in the envelope.
Thank you. Laurel, thank
Who won the coin toss?
She did.
Yeah, she got 3 scores and she. Okay. Thank you.
It's an awful thin envelope there.
So Daniel, I'm assuming explains you'll get the opening statement first, you'll get the closing statement first. Cody, just give me some kind of signal or whatever when you're ready, or whatever y'all want to do. radio? Are y'all taking breaks right now? Oh, you're not live yet. That's right, that's right.
No, we're not taking.
You're not? Okay. Okay.
They don't have to do 3 minutes.
Gotcha. Okay, if I can have your attention, we're ready to go with our next race. If you'll please take a seat. Okay, as I said earlier, our next candidates are for Family Court Judge, a nonpartisan race. They are Tracy Peppers to my left, Michael Wood Pence to my right, and we will begin with the opening statement from Ms. Peppers. 2 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Tracy Peppers. I'm your current family court judge, and I have spent over 20 years working with families and children within the court system. I was a court-designated worker, and what they do is basically saying that they help juveniles who have committed crimes or committed status offenses like truancy or runaway and things like that. I then went to social services, and I worked as a social worker. After a few years of doing that, I went to law school. When I came out of law school, I got a job as an assistant Commonwealth attorney under Karen Davis with the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. In fact, I worked with Catherine Thomas for a while. And then I went into private practice, and I did basically family law. And then I was appointed in February as the family court judge. And since then, you had asked about child support to the county attorney. I am putting people in jail. If they don't have a good reason for not paying child support, they will go to jail. And I've been told by both the Barren and Metcalfe counties' child support offices that it is working. People are starting to pay their child support because they don't want to go to jail. Some of the other things that I have done is reduce the amount of time that it takes to get to trial. It was previously approximately a year. Now it's about 90 days. And so I would appreciate all your consideration when you go to vote in November.
Ms. Pence, 2 minutes for your opening statement.
I'm Micah Wood Pence, and I'm asking for your vote for family court judge. This is the job that I want, but it's the job that I didn't realize that I am meant to do. The job that I've been training for my whole life and didn't know it until the first time I was asked for my qualifications for this position. The obvious answer is I've been practicing family law for 10 years. As an attorney, as a practicing attorney, family law has been my focus from the beginning. I've traveled across the Commonwealth, practiced in more than 20 counties and before more than 50 judges. But when you talk about my experience with kids, I grew up in a big family. Children were always around. My experience started with my cousins and playing with them and helping care for them. My first jobs were refereeing b-ball and tutoring through the 21st Century program. Working with children's always been a passion. It's something that I didn't realize was a talent of mine that not everybody has. I can get a kid to open up in a sensitive situation and tell me what's truly going on. And that's something that can be hard to do because it's intimidating for children to be in the courtroom. But I also had my first job in the court system as a teenager. I worked for Nancy Botts in the clerk's office and learned about the court system from the other side when I was both in high school and in college. I had my first job in a law firm when I was in college. I went on to law school at the University of Kentucky, and I practiced my first divorce cases before I ever turned the age of 25. This is the job that I'm meant to do, and this is the job that I'm asking you to elect me for as your Barren and Metcalfe County Family Court Judge.
Thank you. All right, we're ready for our first question. If I can get a student to come up, please. This will be directed towards Ms. Pence.
What comes first for you, personal beliefs or the letter of the law?
As judge, you're signing up to interpret the law and to enforce the law. That's the job that you're asking to be done. And a lot of times that means some personal sacrifice. That means that you have to put your personal beliefs aside. Although I'll always let my personal beliefs guide me, I can't put those as the priority. And that's part of what you sign up for. This is a nonpartisan race, as you heard earlier when they announced us as candidates. So it's not just my personal beliefs as far as but you have to put your party aside too. Our judicial ethics rules are very, very clear about what it means to be nonpartisan. You don't want anyone to come before you to believe that you have a bias. That means that if I'm putting my personal beliefs first, then people are coming before me and believing already before they start that they don't have a fair chance. That's why you're asked to shed your party. You're not allowed to any type of endorsement from a political party. You're not allowed to associate with them in any way. And that's a good thing, especially in this position where you're dealing with kids. Because what matters is what's best for them. It doesn't matter. Children don't have political parties or affiliations. They often haven't found their personal beliefs yet. So it is important to make sure that they get that fair opportunity and to make sure that those parents know that I'm not making a decision because of my own personal beliefs, but because of what they have done, that their choices are the reason for the decision and not my own personal bias. It was a great question. Thank you very much.
2 minutes, Ms. Peppers, same question.
I agree with Ms. Pence in that this job is about the law. It is not about my personal beliefs. Every day I put aside my personal beliefs to interpret the law through case law, through statutes, and determine the decision based off of the law. This isn't an overall personal belief, but I have already had to make rulings. You hear that I may not personally agree with, such as you often hear what's best for the child, what's in the best interest of the child. Well, I may have a case where I believe it's the best interest of the child for the grandmother to have custody of that child, and that may be my personal belief, but the law does not allow it, and therefore I have to deny that motion for custody. And as much as it pains me to not do what I think is in the best interest of the child, you have to do that within the law, and you have to put your personal beliefs aside.
1 minute.
I believe that you do have to do what's in the best interest of a child, and our Kentucky revised statutes say that, especially in custody cases. Actually, KRS 403.270 lays out what is in the best interest of the child, and that's how you make your decision. There are 7 different factors there that tell you what you decide in making a decision that's in the best interest of the child. Part of that is what that family believes, their religious beliefs, their attachment to the community, the influences that they have in their life, their relationship with other family members. Any type of grandmother would have to qualify as a de facto custodian, which is a whole other set of laws we won't get into. But at the same time, when you're making those custody decisions, you are looking at what's in the best interest of a child, and that is what's most important.
I'm not saying that it's not important what is in the best interest of the child. What I'm saying is there's occasions where, although most of the time it's in the best interest of a child to remain with foster parents that they have been with for a year. But if the parents have completed what they need to complete in a dependency, neglect, and abuse case, whether I think it's appropriate or not, if they've done the minimum amount that the law requires, I have to return that child. And I may not like that, and that may not be what I personally think should happen, but that's what the law requires.
Okay, we're ready for our second question. This will be directed to Ms. Peppers.
How will you ensure both parents are given a fair opportunity in custody disputes?
Just recently, this past July, the statute that Ms. Pence mentioned earlier, the 403-270, changed to where the presumption in cases is that each parent, that they have joint custody and each parent has equal time with the child. And you can rebut that presumption. However, that is a case-by-case basis, and I can't tell you, this case may have this fact, but it has to be something more than just saying that a child needs consistency and needs a home, because I think the legislature considered that, and it has to be one of the things where I found it wasn't in the best interest of the child for that presumption was if one parent lives an hour away from the school that the child is going, I'm not going to make a child be on a road for 2 hours a day just to attend school so that one parent can have equal time. I do listen to both sides, and I have given custody to mothers, I've given custody to fathers, I have given equal custody to, or time with both parents. It just really all depends on the facts of the case, and you have to listen very closely to each side's testimony and evidence to determine what that is.
2 minutes, same question.
All right. In order to give both parents a fair opportunity, the change in the law did help because you assume right now your starting point is that both parents are equal and therefore they should have half time. And you take in the factors and considerations to move that back and forth. For me, I was lucky and blessed and I had 2 amazing parents. And I'm lucky that they stayed together so that I never had to make a choice or be shuffled back and forth or spend more time with one than I did the other. And I know that that was a blessing. But I know I had 2 great parents. And had that day occurred, I would have needed the same amount of time with both of those parents. My dad worked 3rd shift when I was little. So it was often him that stayed at home with me during the day. And now as a parent, my 2-year-old son Chandler has a great father. He has an amazing dad that would need that time with him. Now don't get me wrong, I would have to have a judge tell me that I didn't get to spend half the time with my child because that would be difficult as a parent. But that's why you have to have a judge who's going to be fair because it is emotional to be in these cases and in these circumstances and to make decisions concerning people's children. So you need a judge who is going to be fair and look past the emotions of the parents and look at the facts and say, this is what's going to be best for this child under these circumstances. And I know that I can do that because I know that I want what's best for my child. I know that my parents wanted what's best for me, and having great examples has allowed me to be fair. But I've also seen amazing dads and amazing moms. Every situation is different. This isn't a situation where mom is always the best and dad is always just every other weekend. And that's the way it was previously. We have dads that are a lot more active, especially with moms working. And it is important to consider all of those factors because both moms and dads can be amazing influences in a child's life.
Ms. Peppers, you have 1 additional minute on this topic.
I do want to clear something up about the rebuttable presumption. That does not apply if there's a domestic violence order in place or if there's a domestic violence petition pending. So that is something that you have to take into consideration. If that's there, we don't start with that presumption. And it's great when somebody has parents that reside together and live together, but we know in this society that that does not happen. And so we do know, this is when I look at what's in the best interest of the child. This is when the law allows me to say, I think it's in the best interest of the child to be here or to be here or to have equal time.
1 additional minute.
Some other things that I would like to do to make sure that both parents do receive a fair opportunity and are prepared to share the responsibilities of parenting is to get better classes and programs in place. There are a lot of parents that aren't starting out raising their child in the same home, so they don't even have a baseline of how they're going to care for their child. What's that child's schedule going to be? What's bedtime going to be? What is that child's normal routine going to look like? If parents are together first when raising a child and then divorced, you kind of have that down. But a lot of people today aren't married or living together to start with. So I've actually talked to some local agencies, some local therapists, and we're looking at building a class that is catered to those children who start out going back and forth in 2 different homes to set that baseline of this is going to be this child's routine, this is how we're going to care for this child, here's what we can agree on, and now let's go have the court make the rest of those decisions. And I think making that routine and that consistency in a child's life will help them be even more successful and help those parents do a better job.
Thank you. All right, now each candidate will get 2 minutes for a closing statement. Ms. Pence, you'll go first.
All right. Thank you again for this opportunity to be here. Thank you all for being so active and being here and learning more about your candidates tonight. And thank you all for all those who are watching and being with us. My camera is here, so if you see me looking there, that's why. But I'm asking all of you for your vote for family court judge. I want to be your judge because I want to help this community. And there are a lot of resources available for us to help make this community a bigger success. The job of family court judge isn't just to make decisions. It's to help a family find the resources that they need to be successful. If you look on the Kentucky Court of Justice website, that's what it will tell you. We're not deciding who did right or wrong in the past. We're looking at how we can help them move forward. And I have found some amazing programs that we can implement in this community. One of those is the Handle with Care program. When a child's been neglected or abused, or maybe had the police called out at their house until 2 o'clock in the morning because of domestic violence, the Handle with Care program allows us to inform that teacher, not necessarily of what occurred, but that something's going on in that child's home, to please keep an eye out. And here's the number you should call for help if you think that something's going on with this child. That lets that teacher know that if this child's acting up in class, it might not be the normal disruption, but that they should be handled with care. One of the other great things about me having practiced in so many different courts before so many different judges are the great ways that the things that I've seen that they have done that are effective. One of those would be a pay or stay docket for child support. It's easy. If they have to show up to court every month. If they've already been given one chance, from that point you put them on the pay or stay docket. They show up and they pay, or they stay in jail. It'll streamline the child support office that's already had budget cuts. It will make things easier on our child support workers, and it gives that immediate accountability. You know when you show up that day for court that you're going to jail. Thank you, and again, I ask for your vote on November 6th. Micah Wood-Pence for Family Court Judge.
Ms. Peppers, 2 minutes.
I again ask for your vote on November 6th, and I would ask that you talk to your family and friends and get them out to vote. I think this is a very important election when you're looking at county attorney and who works with dependency, neglect, and abuse, and family court judge, that they have to be able to work together. And I would just ask you to think of family court as a dining room table. A dining room table has 4 legs for a reason. The 4 legs in family court is social work, prosecution, private attorney, and family court judge. I have all 4 legs. I have the strongest foundation to be family court judge. You don't want a table where there's just one leg, maybe private practice. You want somebody that understands the situation. And you can work or have a great family. I had a great family growing up. In my 20 years, I'm not counting babysitting. I'm not counting helping children. I'm not counting when I worked in a law firm when I was a senior in high school. I'm not counting those. I am counting the stuff that directly relates to family court. And I am the one that was sitting on the floor with foster kids while they're crying and trying to cut themselves because they'd been sexually abused. I'm the one that worked with beyond control of parent children. I'm the one that helped parents and guardian and children in family court as a private attorney. I'm the one that prosecuted child abuse and child support. And I have already, as family court judge, implemented the pay or stay docket. And people go to jail right from court. So I ask that you consider all of that and that you vote for the person with the most experience, your family court judge, Tracy Peppers.
Thanks to both of you. Let's give them a round of applause. Thanks, John. Good luck. Next up are the candidates for Glasgow mayor.
Yeah.
He's got the sign. He's going to give you 30 seconds, and he's going to tell you what's coming.
Hello, James. Yeah.
I'm going to do it right now. Yeah, I was going to say you might speak up a little bit. Which one y'all like calling there?
I'll call it.
You call it?
Sure. Yeah.
It's Tails.
Okay.
You get the first question. You get to give the opening statement first.
Okay.
And closing statement first.
And there are 3 questions.
3 questions. And
Okay.
Are you doing that? The mayor and
You'll get the second question.
if y'all would just kind of speak up a little bit because I kind of have trouble hearing the back and ask. Y'all doing great. So.
Everyone will take their seats. We'll get started with our next race. Can I have your attention, please? We'll get started with our next race. These are your candidates for Glasgow Mayor, a nonpartisan race. They are to my left, Dick Doty. To my right, Harold M.D. Armstrong. Each candidate will get 2 minutes for an opening statement. And first with that will be Mr. Doty.
Thank you. I'd like to first say thank you all for being here tonight. I love the fact that we have so many people that are interested in this process and in the candidates. So thank you all for being here. I'd like to also thank the leaders of the Republican and the Democratic Party for their cooperation and collaboration on this and setting the example of civility to pull this event together. So thank you. The main issue 4 years ago for city government was the police department. I'm pleased to say that in the past 4 years we have made significant strides with our police department. The first of which was a leadership change. If you remember, on day one we were without a leader, and James Duff did a marvelous job as the interim police chief while we conducted that search for a permanent police chief. Chief Howie has been hired and has done a marvelous job in the last 4 years, but that's not just my opinion. The Kentucky League of Cities provides insurance for many cities and their police departments. They do an audit of police departments. It's called a scorecard. And they came and did that audit about 2 weeks ago, and I'm pleased to announce that Chief Howie and his team scored 100% on that scorecard. There are less than 20 agencies, police department agencies, in the state that scored that high. So they have made significant strides in their department in providing leadership there. Second of all, I'm very pleased with the economic development gains that we have seen in the last 4 years. There's been 13 industries that we have supported with some type of incentives. They have hired 469 employees, and the average starting wage of those jobs is $17.69. Our infrastructure, we have made great strides in improving the infrastructure. We had average age of our fleet of vehicles was 12 years. We had police officers in 14-year-old Crown Vics. Now, that's great for your grandmother, but not so much for a police officer. We have upgraded that fleet as well.
2 minutes, Mr. Armstrong, for your opening statement.
I'd like to thank everybody that's here and everybody that's watching, plus everybody that was involved in putting this on. There's no way that in a short period of time we can educate the people or the voters in the process of what the mayor's job really is. It's not just an executive position. It's to help all the citizens of Glasgow, not just a select few. But a few things about me. I'm a native Glasgowian. I was born in T.J. Sampson Community Hospital. spent the first 12 years of my life on a farm in southern Barren County. At that time, my father passed away. I moved into Glasgow, and I have worked and been in Glasgow ever since. I spent 18 years right here in this row of chairs representing all the people of Glasgow and not just a select few. I'm back in the roles of trying to guide this city in a little different direction. I'm not going to rebut what the terms and conditions that was just stated, but when we close, I can tell you a few things about the numbers that have been told in this election and can correct some of them for you. But my main thing is I'm available to answer all your questions, and not tonight, but after this goes out. If anybody in the crowd would like to ask me any question, I'll be forthcoming with those answers. And you can call upon me at my office. Since I've been off the city council, I've had just about as many people coming in and out of my office asking me questions about the procedures and what we can do to help in certain circumstances. So feel free to contact me after this tonight, and I'll be glad to answer your questions and give you what my stance is on every issue.
Thank you. Just really quickly, I know we've had some new folks roll in since I initially read the kind of the etiquette rules, but if everybody will please silence your cell phones if you've not already done that. Also, the audience just remain silent throughout this debate. We'll let you know when you can applaud, okay? We are ready for our first question. So if I can get a student to come up. And this will be directed to Mr. Armstrong.
Mr. Armstrong, are you in favor of increased competition for the Glasgow Electric Plant Board? Why or why not?
I'm sorry, am I interested in competition?
In increasing competition.
If competition would make it better for the citizens of Glasgow, I would look at it and support it. My stand on that is the Electric Plant Board was set up and developed from when it was KU, Kentucky Utilities, to service all the citizens of Glasgow at an economical rate. And if I don't think competition within that, because that is actually part of the city, regardless, I don't think competition is the answer. I think it's common sense and the guidelines that were set forth at the beginning that need to be addressed in its entirety. Glasgow is not large enough to say we're going to have two utility companies to service, even though there are parts of that edge of, at one time, part of Glasgow was serviced by Farmers Rural Electric until those lines were redivided. But I don't think competition to the Electric Plant Board, that would be like going and opening a branch office of city government at Haywood or something. So I don't think competition would be the answer.
2 minutes, Mr. Doty, on the same question.
I'm not sure that, I don't know what the guidelines would be and how that would take place, whether we were even able to do that. I'm not sure. We'd have to do some research on that. One thing that I can tell you is the Electric Plant Board is a nonprofit agency. There are a lot of electric utilities in other communities that are for-profit agencies. I think any time that you can have a municipally owned so that you don't have that profit that's got to be made by the company, and that falls on the taxpayers or the ratepayers to pay. So I don't think that would benefit us, not to say that it wouldn't. Be more than happy to look at that. But the other thing that we've got to understand is the mayor's role and city government's role in our electric utility and our water utility. Those are governed by independent boards, and they were set up by the federal government that way so that politicians wouldn't get involved in rate making. I don't think we want to have politicians saying, hey, I'll give you a rate cut if you'll vote for me. So you remove that from the politicians and you set that up in a board's hands. And the board that is currently serving is a 5-member board, and everybody knows that this has been a tremendous issue for the last 2 years. This city council wanted to fire all of the board members and fire Billy Ray. The city attorney informed the council that was not possible without misfeasance, malfeasance, and lots of other big words. We hired Danny Basil, a local attorney, that also said you can't do that. And then we appealed that to the attorney general, who said you can't do that. What we have done is this city council has replaced 3 of those 5 board members, and those 5 board members are continuing to provide excellent service for our community. Again, the role of the mayor in city government is simply to identify those candidates and select them for that board and let that board run that utility.
Mr. Armstrong, you have 1 minute on the same question if you'd like to add anything.
There are a lot of avenues that, like Dick said, that cannot be addressed or cannot be governed by this body here. But the individuals, the citizens of a co-op or the citizens of a municipally owned co-op utility have input. And when that utility makes changes that are in a gray area for the Attorney General of that state, then you do have some avenues, and you have a responsibility. If you're on this city council or you're the mayor, you have a responsibility to all the citizens of Glasgow to make whatever is necessary to ensure that they are getting the fair shake through that utility company.
Mr. Doty, 1 more minute on this topic.
Simply like to reiterate that the board has reacted to the concerns of the citizens. There were obviously a lot of outcry when infotricity was introduced to our community, and a few significant changes were made to infotricity. The first of which is, and that was the plan where electricity went from 6 or 8 cents a kilowatt to $12 a kilowatt. They made the changes, first of which, and biggest of which, was they offered an option B, if you will, or plan B. And under that plan, it was the old rate structure that simply electricity costs the same all day long. The other thing that they did was limit the infotricity peak, or the time when you could have $12 electricity, to only 4 days a month and not any day out of the month. So again, that board did listen to the concerns of the community, and those are just a couple of the changes that resulted from that listening group or that working session that was conducted by that board. So again, the citizens did have input, and the board did react.
Thank you all. We're ready for our second question. This will be directed first to Mr. Doty.
What specific traits and experience do you have to move Glasgow forward?
One of the biggest things that I think I bring to this office, I served as a city councilman prior to being the mayor, and the thing that I found interesting was the way that government did business. I'm a private business owner. I've spent my entire career in private industry, so I think I bring a different perspective to city government than perhaps we've had in the past. But to bring a business mindset to this position, I think, has been very beneficial. You cannot sit in this seat and pretend as though you have unlimited funds. I don't want additional taxes as a private citizen nor as a business owner, so you don't have unlimited funds. You have to run this much like you would run your own private business. The fact that I have experience making a payroll is tremendous experience, and anybody that has done that knows how taxing that can be. And I bring that same mindset to running the city government. As I said when I campaigned 4 years ago, I believe in a balanced budget. We've balanced our budget. We live within our means, and as a result of that, we've been able to grow our fund balance, or our rainy day fund, as it often is referred to, over the past 4 years. So again, running this city much like a business, I think, is the unique perspective that I bring to this position.
Mr. Armstrong, 2 minutes on the same question.
I served more than 2 years here. I served 18 years here. But besides that, I have been a business owner for over 25 years. I have made payrolls. I brought over 300 jobs myself to Barren County and Glasgow over the last 25 years. And my love of this city is, when I say the love of the city, I'm not talking about these chairs. I'm not talking about the bricks and stones. I'm talking about the people. The people make up the city of Glasgow. And I have been extra patient with some of the things that have been said in this election about how they've been misconstrued. But I am for everyone in the city. I don't care who you are. If you are not a voter, but you live in the city of Glasgow, You could call me on the phone when I was on the city council, and if I didn't know the answer to your concern or your question, I would find the answer out. I wouldn't send you to a department head or send you somewhere else to find that answer. I found the answer. I think the difference is that I'm a working mayor, not a mayor by title. And I think if you look into the facts and you understand, you'll see that I'm for the people of Glasgow, not just a select few.
Mr. Doty, 1 minute for rebuttal.
One of the other unique characteristics that I think I bring to this job is the fact that I have in fact performed the jobs, the tasks, the duties of this position for the last 3.5 years. I served as a city councilman. I can tell you that my eyes were opened when I fell into the role or stepped into the role as mayor. It's one thing to say you've served as city council, but when you're in this office each and every day, you have a new respect for the concerns, the needs of the citizens, and the responsibilities of the position. So, as I say, I've got 3.5 years of experience actually doing this job, and I think that speaks of the qualifications. Again, if you look at the results that we've generated in those first 3.5 years, I think that provides unique qualities or characteristics to perform this job.
Mr. Armstrong, 1 more minute on this.
Well, like I said earlier, you can't give all the answers in this short period of time. But if any of you that are out there now, here in the audience or on TV, if you dealt with me when I was on the city council, you know that I would attend to your needs. And now when I'm campaigning, and when I started this race, it was because of the urging of several people that felt like they weren't being represented. If you know someone that does know me, talk to them. They'll tell you that I'm fair and I'll work for you, not around you. So I think the only thing can be said is my reputation as a worker and being on this council and being able to work with everybody is my main qualifications.
These candidates will be answering a third question, so if I can get a student to come up, please. This one will be directed to Mr. Armstrong first. 2 minutes.
Mr. Armstrong, what can the mayor of Glasgow do to address the concerns of Glasgow Electric Plant Board customers?
To address the concerns, you're limited to what you can do to fix everything, but you can be a voice for all of the citizens of Glasgow by being educated on what we're trying to do. I have probably over 1,000 pages of information from the Electric Plant Board when they started this episode. I went to Cedarville, Georgia, back about a year after I was off the city council, and spoke to the TVA because most of the people are uneducated in Glasgow. That we've been told that the TVA is the one that set this up to do this. That was the first word out of here. And that's not correct. The TVA told us that they did not start this. We are guinea pigs for what wanted to be done at the Electric Plant Board. Now, I'm not saying that they didn't have good intentions starting out, because what they said at the time was it was going to do 2 things. Well, after the last 3 years, it hasn't done either one of those 2 things. So I'm going to tell the citizens of Glasgow, if you'll hold on, there are things that can be done regardless of what somebody wants to tell you. You just have to hold on and be jointly involved and get involved and not just sit at home and complain on Facebook. Get out here and talk to everybody that can help you, and you'll find a helping hand.
Mr. Doty, 2 minutes on the same question.
Thank you. The first, again, is that we have to consider the role of city government in these private or these city-owned utilities. The board members that sit on those boards serve as your representatives in the running of that utility, much like these city council members serve as your representatives in city government. So again, we've got to understand that our role as either the mayor or city council is somewhat limited. It's not much stronger than your ability as individual citizens. You can speak to those board members. They are there to hear your concerns and to act on those, the input that they receive from their citizens. So again, we've got to remember that they are listening to your voice. They listen to our voice as well, but our voice is certainly no more strong or more persuasive than yours. So I would encourage you to speak to those board members. Again, 3 of those 5 have been seated since this whole controversy began. Those 3 board members that were seated were vetted, if you will, by this city council. This city council certainly has heard the concerns of the citizens, and so I'm sure that they, in that vetting process, expressed those concerns to those board members prior to approving them to sit and to represent them on that electric plant board. So again, our role is somewhat limited, and the board members are the people that actually act upon the input from the citizens.
Mr. Armstrong, 1 minute.
I think that that the board and Billy Ray, they're honorable people. They're trying to do a good job. I think that, as the mayor said, we're limited, but if you want to help the citizens, you can take the role that I've taken, which means compiling all this information. And I think when we sit down and show them that their goal that they set up, and they said the reason they were changing the rate was to bring employment and to be fair for the industry and the residents. Well, it hasn't been fair for the residents. It hasn't brought employment. I have enough numbers that I can sit down with them and say, look, y'all tried, it didn't work. We need to back up and regroup because your goal has not been met. Your mission statement is thrown in the trash can. It has not been met. So I think common sense and facts that are proposed back to them will do some good.
Thank you. 1 minute, Mr. Doty.
I would encourage you, if you don't know who those 5 board members are, I would encourage you to look that up and go see those people. They certainly are fine individuals, just as Mr. Armstrong said. They are from our community. They have a vested interest in this. Trust me, they have heard your concerns, and yet they continue to make the same decision. So I firmly believe that they have the information that is necessary that might not be known by all of the citizens. All of us may not have looked at these situations and these facts from all vantage points. Trust me, I do believe that they have. And if you don't believe me, I more than encourage you to seek those board members out. They're cordial people. They'll be more than happy to hear your concerns and express their points of view to you individually.
Each candidate will now get 2 minutes for a closing statement. Mr. Armstrong, you'll go first.
I would like to thank everybody here, thank all the voters and the concerned citizens that have approached me. The reason I'm up here tonight started a little over a year ago with a lot of issues that were going wrong. To address what, reiterate what the Dick had said about the police department and how good it's doing. Well, peer pressure of how the Kentucky League of Cities or anybody else wants to rate the police department. When we have officers calling up and saying, I can't take it anymore, I'm out of here, and we're losing good officers, then I don't think that the police department is working at its best. And I'm not saying it's a problem with just one thing. It's not a problem with leadership, or it's not a problem. We don't have the pay set right for them out there right now, nor do we the firefighters. If we don't go to work and get the pay right to keep them here and then work with the leadership out there, you are the biggest voice, you citizens. If you would just voice your concern, and which you have to me numerous times, we have to work together. We have to work with all the citizens. And if what we have to do to keep the citizens, keep the police department ready and enough people working out there, we have to back them up and support them. We have to do the same thing in all the people that's working for the city, regardless of what your job is. We have to at least pay you for what you're doing for the city and reward you for your continual support of your job and for the city of Glasgow and for the citizens. And I'd just like to say that I would appreciate your vote and support on November the 6th because I'll be your working mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. 2 minutes for your closing statement, Mr. Doty.
Thank you. I very much enjoyed the first term serving you as your mayor. I ask for your vote in another term. But we're certainly not finished in the work that we have started here. As I said earlier, our industrial economic development is working well. We have an industrial park that is now full. There is no more property that can be used for recruitment of businesses into our community. We've had 6 tenants added into that park in the last 4 years. Again, I spoke of some of those numbers and wages that are associated with those jobs and those tenants. But we are actively looking for property that we can develop for another industrial park. Was on a trip today talking about the infrastructure for that park, so that's a great initiative. We're going to continue to pursue that economic development because at 3.7% unemployment, one of the great things about that is it raises the livelihood of those people that do have jobs, because typically those employers want to hang on to the employees that they have, and their wages very often rise as a result of the short labor market. The other thing that I read a study that said when people are looking to locate into a community, the 2 most frequently asked questions of realtors is, tell me about your schools and tell me about your parks. I'm pleased to say that we have 2 outstanding school districts here in our community, so we've got that covered. When you look at our parks, on the other hand, we are woefully deficient in the quality of those parks. If you've been to them lately, you know what I'm speaking of. And so we have a tremendous parks initiative that's underway. If you watched our city council meeting or read the newspapers, you see where we have purchased a piece of property downtown for additional park space, but we've also got a plan as a result of the overall master plan for all of the parks that we acted on in our city council meeting this week that will construct a new water park where our swimming pool is. So we're going to continue to build that infrastructure. Again, I ask for your vote and thank you for allowing me to serve this first term.
Thank you both for your participation tonight. Let's give them a round of applause. We'll take about a 3-minute break. Our next candidates will be for Barren County Jailer.
Would you all want to write some notes while you're up here? Feel free to use these notepads.
What's weird? Yeah, it is odd. Daniel, have y'all done the coin toss already? Yes. Yeah. Okay.
He's got opening statement first, and he's got first question.
Okay. Y'all doing all right?
Feels actually good to sit down.
It does. I'm gonna figure it out.
But yeah, you was right about that, Aaron. It's been. What's that? It's been.
Are you doing jailer?
Oh, smooth.
That's fine. I've seen some of it. I'm like, it's distasteful, but it makes it better. Tracy, you said you won the toss, right? You won the toss? Okay. So you know that means you get your opening statement first. You get whatever you want to say. It's your opening statement. You get your closing statement. Okay. Okay, if I can have your attention, we'll go ahead and get started with our next race. have your attention, please? We're going to go ahead and get started with our next race. If you'll take your seats, please. Our next candidates are for Barren County Jailer. They are, to my right, Democrat Tracy Bellamy. To my left, Republican Aaron Bennett. Each candidate will get 2 minutes for their opening statement. And going first with that will be Mr. Bennett.
All right. Thank you all. Like you said, my name's Aaron Bennett. A little bit about myself. I always like to tell people a little bit about myself so you know who I am. The main things about me, in 1996, I joined the United States Marine Corps, and I served until 2004. When I was in the Marines, I had 3 main jobs. I was a presidential guard for President Clinton at Presidential Retreat Camp David. I was in the infantry, and I was also a recruiter. In those 3 jobs, I grew up very quick at a young age. Like I said, I was a presidential guard. By the time I was 21, I was in charge of 1/3 of presidential security. I was a platoon sergeant. So I had a lot of good leadership in front of me to teach me good qualities. Well, I took those with me to the infantry, and there I was a squad leader. And I really had a good opportunity there because I didn't have at that time. When I was a platoon sergeant, I was in charge of anywhere between 30 and 40 guys, but as a squad leader, I was lucky to have a little bit smaller group of guys, about 12, so I could really concentrate on that. Then I came here to Kentucky as a recruiter. I was in charge of Bowling Green and Elizabethtown. So I got to travel this whole area, came here to Barren County. That's where I met my wife, Tiffany Phillips Bennett from Highsville, married her, stayed. Since then, I've been in law enforcement. I worked at Glasgow Police Department for 5 years, 2005 until 2010. I was a patrolman and a detective. After that, I went to Barren County Sheriff's Office, where I'm still currently employed. There, been on patrol, worked night shift majority of my time. I was also a Barren County School Resource Officer for 3 years, which was a great opportunity, and I love seeing the students here this evening and being involved in our community. That's what it's all about, seeing you guys grow and be part of this community. So it means a lot. You got 30 seconds. Okay. Yes. Main thing, guys, I'm bringing all that leadership I had from the military and law enforcement. I have a lot of different aspects in my life, a lot of different directions that's brought me here to where I'm at now. And I think we can go forward in a lot of different directions. Thank y'all.
2 minutes, Mr. Bellamy.
Thank you, Joe. This is truly a humbling experience to be up here in front of you guys, and I appreciate it more than you'll ever know. A little bit about myself. I grew up here in Barren County. I grew up on a farm, and coming up as a young man, I was kind of like Aaron. I had to grow up really fast. So when I started in the jail, I walked in as a young man, and I knew right offhand that that's where I belonged at. That's what I wanted to do. And I found myself supervising men that are twice my age, and some of them are charged with murder, burglary. These are violent men. So I had to grow up fast, and I got the opportunity to work with 4 jailers. I can't put a price on the experience that I gained. I took every opportunity that I had to gain knowledge from them, gain experience from them. I wanted to learn how to manage a budget. I wanted to learn everything from top to bottom, back to front. And that's what I spent my time doing. I didn't spend my time just drawing a paycheck and going home at the end of the day. Every time a door opened, I would go through it. If I had a chance to go to training, I was gone. The jailer was there, I wasn't far behind him. So that it gave me is invaluable. And it shows. I hope it shows I work hard for you guys. Our jail is financially in the best place it's ever been in. I've got programs that double jails twice our size. Thank you, James.
Thank you, Mr. Bellamy. All right, we are ready for our first question. If I can get a student to come up. And this will be directed first to Mr. Bellamy.
What's your vision for the Barren County Jail for the next 4 years?
For the next 4 years, to stay on the pace that we're at right now. My main goal is to be completely self-efficient. We are within arm's reach of it. We are literally that close. The first year that I took the office, I returned $150,000 back to the general fund. It had never been done before. We'd had a level year, but we hadn't had a return come back to the general fund. So after that year, I knew I set my goal higher. And within that first year, I also paid off our old jail. It was $100,000. My next year come up. I wanted to bring $300,000 worth of revenue into our jail. I got close. I exceeded $200,000, but I didn't reach my $300,000 mark. We are close. We are super close. My staff does an amazing job. Some days they don't understand the decisions I make, why I don't spend money, why we have to do without some things at times. But a county, and especially our county, we can't afford to pay the operation of a jail. We can't afford to put $1 million into running our jail. It would break our county. It's my responsibility to provide you the best jail that I can possibly provide you with, and I'm going to.
Mr. Bennett, 2 minutes on the same question.
My vision is people. It's the deputy jailers. I want to focus on people. And the main thing is, my whole slogan has been leadership. Just one simple word. I want to bring that leadership to the deputies. I want to make sure they're trained. I want to make sure they're educated. That way it's providing Barren County with trained, educated, dedicated personnel. You got to put that time in the people because that's what's going to build Barren County. I want to train them good enough that they can go anywhere. But I want to treat them good enough that they don't want to go. But also when you're talking about training them, those deputies, as they get better, they're also going to better the inmates. They're going to better the people that come in there, giving that service back to the community. That's my main vision for the jail is the people. If we bring up the people at the jail, we train them, we educate them, make them better, make the programs better, all that stuff. And the money, it'll all fall into place, but it takes time. That's the main thing with this. This isn't go in and everybody's going to be trained in 2 weeks and here we go. But it's going to take time to train them. But we got to bring those professional standards up. So that's my main vision for the jail is to bring those professional standards up through the people.
1 minute, Mr. Bellamy.
And I respect that fact. Past 2 years, my training has more than doubled. We do leadership training. We are focused on training. I've got people that has left, probation pro, police departments, whatnot. We're in a tough time today. A lot of people is not interested in doing this kind of work. A lot of people don't want to be a police officer anymore. I don't know where the interest level has went, but at the end of the day, I love my staff. There's nothing that I wouldn't do for my staff. And they work hard. They provide you a good service. They are the backbone of the jail. They literally are.
Mr. Bennett, 1 additional minute.
The main thing is you got to go out and recruit people. I know what it takes to be a good police officer. I was a recruiter in the Marine Corps. I got accomplishment papers from the Air Force because I had guys come into the Marines before, and I saw that young person that was in high school that maybe just wasn't cut out to be a Marine, and the more I talked to them, I could see they're more Air Force. I knew all the different military branches. My family served with them, all the different branches, and I'd say, hey, let's go over here and talk to the Air Force, and they go over there because it wasn't about me as a Marine. It was about them as an individual taking a path for them. So it's the same thing. If I want to get good quality people, I got to go find them. I can't sit there and wait for them to come to me, but I know what it takes to deal in the law enforcement job, and it's no different than what it takes to be inside a correctional center.
Thank you. All right, we're ready for our second question. If I can get a student to come up. And this will be first directed to Mr. Bennett.
Mr. Bennett, what kind of experience do you have to run $1 million budget effectively?
See, I haven't talked anything about a budget for the last year. Because the thing with a budget is, first it's got to be approved. Mr. Bellamy has done an extremely well job. I have no arguments when it comes to the budget. But I think a lot of attention has been on the budget over the last years. That's the main thing that in the news and the media has always been budget, 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 budget. And so that's what everybody thinks the jail is about, is a budget. The main thing is, first we got to write a budget, then that budget has to be approved by a physical court. And luckily for us, through the physical court and the judge executives, they all work together and focusing on that budget. I've never had to work with a big budget except my own home. I had a budget when I was in the Marine Corps, when I was on recruiting. I had 4 different recruiters work for me. I had 2 in Bowling Green and 2 in Elizabethtown. So we had a budget that came to us from our main recruiting station in Louisville. It wasn't a multi-million-dollar budget, but the thing is, you have X amount of dollars, you can't expend above X amount of dollars. A budget does not scare me whatsoever when it comes to that. It's basically keeping your checkbook balanced and knowing where the money's going and how much is coming in, what you can spend. So a budget, it don't worry me at all.
Mr. Bellamy, 2 minutes on the same question.
No, the budget isn't the main thing within the jail, but definitely it is a high priority on the jail. Everything revolves around the budget. Unfortunately, everything revolves around budgets in county government in general. You know, it limits us to training. It limits everything that we do. So yeah, my budget is right at $2.4 million. If I mismanage that budget, who's going to pay for it? We are. Me too. I'm a taxpayer. We're all going to have to pay for it. So, yeah, the budget is extremely important, but we have state guidelines that we got to go by. I have staff to take care of. I've got 250 to 300 inmates I got to take care of, and I have to budget for them on a daily basis. You know, I have to feed them. I have to clothe them. And same thing with staff. I have to clothe them as well. So it's a very important part of the jail.
Mr. Bennett, one additional minute.
Luckily for me, I do work at Barren County Sheriff's Office. I've been there since 2010, so I've been around county government. I've had the great privilege of working with Sheriff Keene over the last few years. Actually, I've worked with the majority of my law enforcement career at Glasgow Police Department and the Sheriff's Office, and he speaks with us deputies. Of course, a lot of money goes into training. Of course, in law enforcement, we have a lot of physical training, firearms training, and so all that money, each time you pull a trigger that round in training, it costs money. So we keep track of all that. Being a firearms instructor and stuff, we have to keep up with all the ammo and how much to train officers. So I've been very fortunate to speak with Kent Keene, who's a very intelligent man, who's done a great job with his budget, and to learn from him over the last few years.
Mr. Bellamy, one more minute.
We do have to budget for ammo. We do have to budget for all that, but we're talking about human lives is what I'm dealing with. It's very important. The jail single-handedly is the biggest liability that we have in a county. It is. It can literally break our county. This day and time, money's tight. Money's tight everywhere. The budget isn't my only focus. You know, there's everything in between. Jail is a huge responsibility. It's a huge liability. So like I said, when I walked into it when I was a young man, I didn't realize. I didn't understand. Nobody does until you get in there and you have to deal with it. And you have to learn fast.
Okay, each candidate will now get 2 minutes for a closing statement. Mr. Bellamy will go first.
Again, thank you all, and I would appreciate a vote this fall. Like I told people in the community while we've been out campaigning, I hope you can see the effort that I've put in the jail. Not just financially, but across the board. I've tried to step outside the box when it comes to jail. Most jailers you see stay in the jail. You know, you don't see them out in the community. You don't see them trying to address homeless issues, feeding hungry children. You know, it's my job to get out in community and be a part of our community. You guys pay me. I serve you. I just don't have to serve you inside that jail. I put my heart and soul in this jail, in this community that I grew up in. I love it. If you vote for me, I'll work for you. If you don't vote for me, I'm still going to serve you just as much as I did somebody that supported me. So I hope you can feel the passion that I have for my job. Thank you very much.
Mr. Bennett, 2 minutes for your closing statement.
For 22 years, I've served our country. I've served our community. And one word always comes to my mind: worthiness. Worthiness is not an absolute. It's not like you get worthiness one day and you get to keep it. You've got to work for it and earn it each and every day. When I was in the Marines, when I laced up my boots to go to work, I worked for that worthiness of the title I had and the men I worked for. Same thing when I go to law enforcement every day. I have to become worthy of protecting and serving our community. I got to face the fears. I face people on their ground, in their backyard. I go to their house and face these fears. And I got to become worthy of doing that, to protecting this community. I'm going to continue doing that. In Isaiah 6:8, I know I've used this my whole campaign. The Lord asked, "Who shall we send? Who will go for us?" And Isaiah replied, "Here am I, send me." If you want somebody that's going to wake up and earn that worthiness of being a jailer, earn that worthiness of working and serving for you in Barren County, here I am. Send me. I ask each and every one of you for your vote and your support on November 6th. I'm very passionate about it. I am here to work for you. Thank you all.
Thank you both for your participation. Let's give them a round of applause. take a couple-minute break here, and next up will be the candidates for Barren County Clerk. Right through those doors.
Great job.
Thank you. Thank you. You all right?
Like I said, use those notepads right now.
Did y'all do the coin toss?
Yes.
No, we did not. I'm like, wait, oh, Lord, I must have been dreaming.
I think I am trying to do 7,000 pages a week. Who wants to call it?
Cadence.
Tails. So you get the first question, you get the opening statement first, and we'll do your closing statement.
Yeah. Okay. Just remind us of that, John.
I will.
We'll take all the reminders that we can get.
I'll be glad to. Okay, so. Okay, yeah, I will. I will.
That was
That's
good.
actually a good idea. I probably will.
Don't call us out of order.
Not ours.
Oh, I guess I need to scoot over here closer.
I was going to say, is the mic pretty hot? I mean, you don't.
Well, they told me initially it was, but then they came up after that first one and said we might need to lean into them a little bit more.
Okay.
So we don't have to get right on top of it. But
I'm a talker. I'm a loud talker. I mean, that's why I was worried if it was a hot mic.
just make sure y'all know James Moore's the timekeeper. He's sitting right here. He'll let you know when you've got 30 seconds, and then he'll let you know when it's time to stop.
Okay. I feel like I'm way away over here, but it's okay.
You want me to move over a little bit towards?
Come over here, Sherry.
That's okay.
So again, Helena, when we start, you'll get the opening statement first. You'll get the first question, and then we'll reverse on the second question, and then you will close first, you'll close last, okay? Cody. Everybody's attention. We'll go ahead and get started with our next race.
He did use it.
That was weird. I mean, gracious, I need a little warning.
Thank you all very much. Our next candidates are for Barren County Clerk. They are, to my right, Republican Helena Chase Birdwell. To my left, Democrat Sherry Phillips Jones. Each candidate will get 2 minutes for an opening statement, and going first will be Ms. Birdwell.
Thank you, Joe. Did I turn it off? Oh, never mind. Thank you, Joe, and thanks to each of you for being here tonight, and thank you to the media for this opportunity. My name is Helena Chase Birdwell, and I'm running for Barren County Clerk. Over the last year, my family and I, we've traveled throughout Barren County, and we've had the great privilege of meeting many of you, and it has been an honor. Throughout that process, I've gotten a lot of questions, but recently, I had kind of a tough question. I got a question from my little boy, Jackson. He's 6 years old. He said to me recently, he said, "Mommy, what's a Democrat?" I said, "Oh my goodness, Jackson." So I went through the process of trying to explain to a 6-year-old what the difference is between political parties. But then I went on to say, "But Jackson, Mommy doesn't care if someone's a Democrat or Republican or not affiliated with either party. Mommy cares about helping people, all people." And you see, that's just what I've done my whole career. I have worked with county mayors, or city mayors, and county judges, and state reps, and
congressmen from both parties through all levels of government. And I want to continue doing that. As your next Barren County clerk, I will spend my time helping people and all people to make sure that we continue to receive the excellent customer service that we've always received in the county clerk's office. Thank you.
Thank you. 2 minutes, Ms. Jones, for your opening statement.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. Thank you all for joining in, either in the audience or by television or however you're watching this episode. We appreciate this so very much. A little bit about myself. I'm Sherry Phillips Jones. I'm a longtime native of Barren County, born and raised right here. Married to Donald Jones. Next May, we've been married 30 years, who's also a lifelong resident of Barren County, except for the time that he did serve our great country as a veteran in the U.S. Army. We have one daughter, Megan, who will be 25 this Saturday. Her mom almost forgot, but she will be 25 this Saturday. We live on a small farm in rural Barren County, which we do. I enjoy that part of it. Graduated from Barren County High School, not ashamed to say, in 1984. That seems like a long time to especially these young children here on this front row. Right after high school, I had the privilege to begin working in the law firm of Carol Redford Jr. and Woody Gardner as a legal secretary. And also I've worked in the law office with Bobby Richardson. What that time afforded me as a legal secretary, first and foremost, those gentlemen have served this country as public servants. So that introduced me at the young age of 17 to what it means to be a public servant. In addition to those duties as a legal secretary, I helped the attorneys to do a lot of the title searches in the office of the county clerk. So that gave me the first-hand knowledge of what was in the county clerk's office. Then, in February of 1992, then County Judge Executive Woody Gardner, I went to work for him in his office, a job I still hold today, 26 years later. In that position, I have held the jobs of fiscal court clerk, finance officer, administrative assistant, ADA coordinator. In a small office, there's a lot of things. Glad to be here.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. All right, we are ready for our first question. If I can get a student to come up, please. Whoops. And this will be directed first to Ms. Jones.
Ms. Jones, what changes would you implement to current operations in the clerk's office?
Thank you very much for that question. As I've said before, I've worked right alongside county clerks over the past 26 years. I know what that office entails. One of the things that I would like to see done, the current staff of 15 office deputies are wonderful. They know what they're doing. And any leader or supervisor of an office knows you're only as good as the people in your office. So those ladies and gentlemen that work in there, they understand what happens in that office. But one of the things I think is very crucial to any office would be your cross-training, to make sure that the individuals in there know each other's jobs. You know, they do have specific jobs to take care of, and I understand that. That should be their first and foremost. But also be able to take care of another person's job. So cross-training, I believe, is very essential. It would help the employees to understand somebody else's position in that office. So it would help everybody to get along, not that they don't, but it would help that. Productivity, when someone comes in from another end of the county and they don't have long to come in and get the things that they need, if that person's not aware of the service, then they may have to be turned away. That's not acceptable to me. If a person comes into your office, you should be able to provide that service to them.
Ms. Birdwell, 2 minutes on the same question.
Okay, the changes that I would make, I've kind of talked about this throughout the year, throughout the primary process, and then now this fall also. Obviously, I want to continue that excellent customer service that we have experienced on and on throughout from the clerk office. But as Ms. Jones said, I want to see the staff cross-trained. I think that's something that they would like to see also. I want to create a user-friendly website that makes it easy to access some of the services that we offer at the clerk's office from the comforts of your home. Now, I know that there are websites already in place, but I want to create a website that puts all that on our website. So you don't have to search. You don't have to go to the Secretary of State's office for election stuff, and you don't have to go to the Department of Motor Vehicle for registration renewals. I want it all to be right there on your county clerk's website. I want to become a certified passport center. You know, I work for U.S. Congressman Brett Guthrie. I haven't talked much about that tonight yet, but I'll get into there. But we serve 23 counties, and across Kentucky, other county clerk's offices offer passport acceptance facilities. So if you are traveling soon and you need your passport, you can come to your county clerk's office. So I look forward to implementing that too. Thank you.
One additional minute, Ms. Jones, on this topic.
Thank you. Another change that I would like to see regular public service announcements come from the Office of County Clerk. And if I'm County Clerk, I would like to do that. And through those public service announcements, I would like to make you aware of any changes that you need to be made aware of in order to get those services through that office. But also to help educate from the youth to the older people about the services of that office. It's confusing, and I understand that, but I would like to help you understand more of what happens in that office, when you can come in. The end of the month are busy times, and you need to understand that. There may be a wait time in that. But the Passport Center that Ms. Birdwell spoke about, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. There's just certain things you have to weigh. You have to weigh the services versus the cost. You have to make sure, like this office, you make sure that you're not expending more for the county to have to raise the taxes, and we all want to keep those taxes low. So there's certain things in there that you do have to weigh.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. One additional minute, Ms. Birdwell.
And I think public service announcements are great. I think it would be awesome to have a Twitter account for your Barren County Clerk's office. I know I spoke to the high school recently, and I said I don't know much about the Twitter account, but I will get that set up so I can tweet you, hey, we're closed today, or if you're coming in, lines are a little long. But about the passport acceptance facility, you know, if you talk to the post office about that revenue, $35 is $35. You know, they charge $35 if you want to go in and file an application for a passport. So I think it'd be great. A new source of revenue. Maybe not huge, but it's revenue.
Okay. We are ready for question number 2. And this will first be addressed to Ms. Birdwell.
Ms. Birdwell, if elected, will you change the staff size of the clerk's office? Why or why not?
I do not have any plans currently to change the staff size at the clerk's office. You know, until I'm there and look at any changes that I've discussed, if we need to make any, at that time it would be easier to know once I'm elected and the actual clerk. But right now, I think Joanne and Pam Hodges-Browning and Mr. Hodges before Pam, they've done an excellent job. And Pam has already, Joanne has, we had some clerks retiring, some deputies retire this year, and Joanne has already got those jobs filled, and those individuals are either trained or in the process of training. So this time, I don't have any plans to change that staff size. Thank you.
2 minutes on the same question, Mrs. Jones.
Thank you. The same response as Ms. Birdwell. I do not have any plans to change any of the current staff. Like I've mentioned in my opening statement, the staff, they're very well educated on their jobs of what they're doing. The fact that each one of them has a specific duty within that office speaks volumes because they know that. They've been there. They understand what happens. So really, I do not foresee any changes in that unless there's some new laws that happen to come down. I mean, I know there's one talk of maybe the driver's license section coming into the county clerk's office. So we'll just have to address those issues with the fiscal court at that time because, again, the fiscal court got the final say-so on the services and the employees, the number of deputies that you can hire in the county clerk's office. And with my experience, I've worked with the fiscal court. I have a thorough understanding of the budgets. I have a thorough understanding of the policies. I've written most of the policies with the assistance of the county attorney, so I know how that works. So at this time, I do not have any plans to change that.
Ms. Birdwell, you have an additional minute on this topic?
I think that the current staff, to me, they're the experts. They have they have years of service already under the belt, with the exception of the new hires. So I look forward to working with them. I look forward to training with them. And, there is one employee the clerk's office that's under a grant program, and maybe I can look for another grant to maybe add additional help if that is something that we need in filing records. So thank you.
Ms. Jones, one additional minute.
Ms. Birdwell brought up the fact about the grant that we have. The grant that we have is through the Department of Library and Archives to digitize our records that we're so fortunate to have. Barren County is very fortunate that we've not had a fire, so we have our records for a long time. Those records are very crucial to the attorneys that come in to do that, people that come in to check anything that's in the marriage license that are recorded. Those grants have been applied for, and I've actually myself have worked with the county clerk to get a grant to codify the county ordinances. So I understand the grant system also and would be willing to pursue those.
Okay, thank you very much. Each candidate now gets 2 minutes for a closing statement. Going first will be Mrs. Jones.
Thank you very much. Again, I appreciate everything that you all have done along this campaign trail. It's been very supportive. I've loved to get out and meet you, hear what you have to say. Again, these youth here on this front row, I appreciate you all. Get involved. I think I spoke with several of you all this morning. Make sure you get involved. Educate yourself. The way I look at this race is not about politics. It's about the potential. Me and Ms. Birdwell, the way I look at it, we're both applying for the same job. When you're looking at an applicant, you look at their resume, look at their experience, and I hope on November the 6th that you'll look at my 26 years of experience as a good thing and will hire me to work for you as your next county clerk.
Ms. Birdwell, 2 minutes for a closing statement.
Thank you all again. I've enjoyed this experience. I was a little bit nervous before I got here, but I've really enjoyed it. My experience in direct public service and working with people on a daily basis is more than a number. I promise you that I commit to being the people's clerk. Working for and listening to all residents will always be my top priorities, and I will not take this lightly. Throughout my career, I've helped people at the local, state, and federal levels. I've helped displaced workers find reemployment or retraining if that was what they needed. I've helped employers when they've been faced with mass layoffs and plant shutdowns to make sure they had the tools and resources they needed to lessen that blow. I've helped constituents through the congressional office resolve issues with federal agencies they otherwise would not have been able to resolve. I enjoy the challenge of cutting through that red tape and making things right for people. I want to make sure that Barren County continues to grow and prosper, and we have a bright future for generations to come. On November the 6th, I humbly ask you for your vote and your continued support, and I'm grateful for those that voted for me in the primary, because without you all, I couldn't be sitting here today still asking you for your vote November the 6th to be the next Barren County clerk. Thank you.
Thank you both for being here. Let's give a round of applause.
It scared me. I jumped out of the seat, but it didn't.
Sorry. That's okay. Next candidates will be for Barren County PVA. Sit either side. You might want to go see Danny there. He's going to do a coin toss. Okay. Who gets first question? Oh, he's coming here. Coming this way. Looks like he's coming. I'll give you that awesome. Oh.
We'll do points at minus the winner get the first question, and the loser gets to do the opening statement. And then whoever does the opening statement first will go last on the closing statement. So basically, if you do the opening statement first, the person gets to get their closing statement first. So do you call it? Who wants to call it?
I don't care. Heads.
Heads it is, so you get first question and you do your opening statement.
Joe, you just keep us in line.
I'll try.
Those Pat, you don't write notes while asking questions or anything like that. Sorry. This is only 2 questions.
I'm going to go get a quick swig of water. I'll be right back. Brad gets the opening statement. Yep, you get the first question. If I could have your attention, please, we'll go ahead and get started with our next race. Our next candidates are for Barren County PVA. They are, to my left, Democrat Brad Bailey, and to my right, Republican Kim Shipley. Each candidate will get 2 minutes for an opening statement, and going first with that will be Mr. Bailey.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. Thank you, Wes, for making the Facebook Live and the radio feeds happen, as well as the TV. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I was born here in Barren County in 1963. My dad was Leroy Bailey, Sunbeam Bread Man for over 30 years. My mom, Sandra Bailey, she was a cosmetologist and later in her career a state inspector. Graduated Barren County High School in 1981, went to the University of Kentucky for the next 4 years, graduated with a major in animal science and a minor in agricultural economics. Went directly to work for the Kentucky Department of Agriculture, which sparked my interest into running for a political office. The fact was, of that matter, I didn't like my job so well, and I saw the politics at the state level and thought that I could make a difference. Started thinking about running for PVA earlier than I actually ran. Things didn't work out. Miss Follis had several people opposing her when I first thought about running, but that brought to me that I probably need to do some more training on this. So I took Howard Brantley Advanced Real Estate Appraisal class at Western Kentucky University in order to maybe run again. The next season, I found out my dad had cancer. Did not want to take that time away from him in order to run a campaign. And finally, 4 years after that, everything worked out, fell in line, and I was able to run on having 0 appeals and having a friendly, courteous staff, and was successful in that endeavor. And I ask that you will continue to support me, as you have in the last 16 years, to continue on this tradition. Thank you.
Ms. Shipley, 2 minutes for an opening statement.
Okay. I'm Kim Powell Shipley, and thank you for being here tonight. I know we've been here a while, but it's important. I've done a lot of different things. I have been married to my husband, Matt, for 27 years, a lifelong resident here of Barren County, other than when I was away at school. I have 3 daughters, and it's important to me. The PVA is an important office. And I have found out that a lot of people have no idea how important it is. They don't know that it affects every single person in this county, every student in this county. And I went to Western Kentucky University, went to cosmetology school first, and then that takes 1 year. And so I worked and put myself through Western Kentucky University. I have a bachelor's degree in financial management. And then after getting married and having my first child, worked in that, and then I took the real estate test. I didn't have to have any other classes. I had every class that Western had to offer in banking and real estate law and real estate. And so I went and took the test. I believe it was 94. I got my real estate license. I've done real estate off and on for 20 years while still being a full-time cosmetologist. A few years ago, about 20 years ago, 16 years ago, in that range, I had thought about running for this office. But I thought, it's too much to do that with small children. My husband and I, at that time, had 2 small businesses and small children. And so I thought, I can't do that at this time. The time will come later. And so a few years ago, I thought, I think the time is coming up. Our 2 oldest children are grown and have graduated from college. Our youngest is in high school. And when I was in real estate a few years ago, I thought, there's things about real estate I love, and there's things I don't love. And the things I love was the paperwork. I love the numbers. I love looking at the plats and the deeds and all of that. And so I knew this was the direction that I wanted to go. And so I am anxious and excited to talk with you all. I've met a lot of great people, and I'm ready to get started.
Thank you, Ms. Shipley. All right, we are ready for our first question. So if I could get a student to come up, please. All right, and this first question will be directed to Ms. Shipley first.
Ms. Shipley, with what frequency should property evaluations be reassessed?
Well, for homes, they are supposed to be done at least once every 4 years. Home properties, farms, commercial properties, everything is assessed differently. It's different setups. There's different formulas depending on what that is, but they are supposed to physically inspect your home properties once every 4 years. And then, of course, cars, that's a whole separate process, but that's what the guidelines from the Revenue Department in Frankfort set. PVA is a little different office than a lot of other county offices. Everything that you do is set and run above you with the Revenue Department in Frankfort. And there's a lot of KRS guidelines of how you do it, what you do. And so, obviously, government sets the rate at what things are taxed. You set the assessed value.
Mr. Bailey, 2 minutes on the same question.
Could I ask him to repeat the question for me?
Sure.
I barely could hear him. And what was your name?
Parker Bannister.
Nice to meet you, Parker.
Nice to meet you, too. With what frequency should property evaluations be reassessed?
All right. We have a quadrennial inspection period, like my opponent said, that we have to inspect every piece of property at least once every 4 years. However, we have to put an assessment on every property every year. Now, we have this quadrennial inspection period set up where we're doing the cities, Cave City, Glasgow, and Park City, which will be this coming year. The second year, we do Southern Barren County, all residential and commercial, not just residential and farm properties. And then the third year, we do Northern Barren County, the residential and farm properties. And the fourth year, as we've just finished up, we're doing assessments on commercial properties. Now, if we make a change in your property value, what we have to do is send you a notice, and that usually happens around the end of April. And that gives you time to come in and talk about your assessment with us. It's called would you come in and view it's called open inspection period, where you can look at everybody's assessment. That's really a public record, and you can look at it all the time that you would like to, or any time that you'd like to, and we can talk about your assessment any time that you would like to during the year. But it's those first 2 weeks in May that you can come in and counsel with us, and we can talk about your assessment and make any adjustments. So mid-May would be the last time of this year that we can talk about your assessment. Unfortunately, and I know this is not a good on the election season, that's coming up, but tax bills are fixing to be mailed out here just, at the end of next week probably. So it's too late for us to make any adjustment in your assessment period for this tax bill season, but if you're still not thinking your assessment is proper, we can talk about it for next year. So don't be afraid to come in and talk with us even after you get your tax bill.
Ms. Shipley, you have an additional minute on this topic?
I'd just like to say that as PVA, I would be glad and happy to sit down and talk with you. I won't direct you to any other office. I will love to go over the details of how that's figured. I would love to get that on the website so that it was more clear, more information for people of how exactly it works. Because like I said, there's a lot of things assessed. There's, vehicles and houses and farms and commercial, and there have been lots of questions from as I've gone door to door, and so I would like to get more of that information online so that people don't have to come in unless they really choose to if they have a problem, because people work hard and it's not always convenient to come in to the office, and so I'd like to get more information online to help them in that process.
Mr. Bailey, one more minute on this topic.
All right, we can talk about motor vehicle assessments. Those are evaluated and assessed at the state level at the Department of Revenue. We have room to make adjustments on them, say for high mileage. So when you're coming into the clerk's office to get your license plate and pay your taxes on your vehicle, we have a lot of people to come up to the office and we can run a high mileage, and if we can help you, we'll be more than happy to get that value on there for you. That's a good, correct value.
All right, we are ready for our second question. This will be directed first to Mr. Bailey.
Mr. Bailey, what role do PVA offices play in overall economic development for counties?
The overall economic development, we get that questions a lot from the school system. They will call and ask what we think that our assessments are going to be up or down for the future year. When we're doing our tax roll, we start out doing the assessments each year like we talked about. We continue that process on and make the changes that we need. Then we send that information to the revenue cabinet, who certifies our tax roll. At that point in time is when the taxing districts like the schools or the fiscal court or city government looks at those assessments and sets their tax rates. As far as us controlling any economic development in the county, we're more of an evaluator and assessor of the property that's here, and is the change here would be for the taxing districts that any new property that we put on the tax roll is not a part of they're figuring for the current year's tax rates. It's kind of like free money for them. House Bill 44 says that you can only increase your revenue in a taxing district up to 4% without taking it to the general public for a vote. So any new property that we can put on is just additional money for the taxing districts.
Ms. Shipley, 2 minutes on that same topic.
All right. Yes, the taxing districts, like I said, we assess the value. The city, the county, the state, the school districts, they change the rate at which it is valued. That sets the rate that's then multiplied with the assessment. But as far as that, you can help, you can answer questions, you can give them a general idea of how it's going. Most people would have a sense of that. Right now, things are good. Economically, things are going well. So you might expect an increase because people have a little more money. Jobs, they may be switching homes more. Interest rates are still relatively low, so that plays into it. So you would expect it to be where it's at or higher for this year. But that's about economically. We wouldn't have any more qualifications to do that than the general public.
Mr. Bailey, an additional minute.
All right, kind of an example that we experienced 6 or 7, maybe 8 years ago by now. Our national news coverage was all talking about how depressed the values of real estate and homes were in Florida, Las Vegas, and California. So everybody's calling the PVA office saying we all ought to lower our assessments. Well, the fact is that we weren't a part of that bubble burst in those areas. We were sitting right here calmly. Our values did not decline. Everybody thought that they should be declining, but they did not. What happened was the number of days on market got longer. It was taking you longer to sell your homes, but the value did not change a significant amount where we would lower an assessment.
Thank you. And Ms. Shipley, one more minute.
I reiterate what he said. It's just a process that you have to go through. It doesn't change significantly. Now, if you have a home in an older neighborhood and not a lot of people have changed, moved in or out or done additions, it's probably not changing a lot. If you're in a neighborhood that has a lot of turnover, a lot of comparable sales, it does affect it somewhat of your house. And that's what most people are going to be concerned with. I know farmers, that's a whole other taxing entity because they have a lot that plays into their crops, their pasture land, woodland. There's so much more that goes into it. But no, I think we've pretty much covered the bases of all that.
Okay, each candidate will now have 2 minutes for a closing statement. Ms. Shipley, you'll go first.
All right. Thank you all again, like I said, for being here. What is the PVA? Am I getting rid of the staff, and am I raising taxes? Those are the 3 questions I have been asked more times than I can count. At this time, I have no reason to get rid of the staff. They are trained. They know their job. Now, with that being said, I think that maybe we could focus on details. Details in this office are very important. Details are everything. And people are people, and occasionally they make mistakes. But I would like to be the leader that makes sure if it's going out of that office in my name, I want to make sure, as I've said before, that every I is dotted, every T is crossed, and we have absolutely done everything we can humanly do to make these fair assessments for everybody. My slogan throughout it has been honesty, integrity, and accessibility, and that's who I am as a person. And I can guarantee you 100% of the time I would not ever put politics, favoritism, nepotism, nothing illegal, immoral, unethical would happen on my watch. I would be in that office every day. Anybody who has worked with me or for me knows I don't mind hard work, and no one's going to work harder than me. I can guarantee that, hands down. And I just ask right now for your vote. It has been a fun process. I hesitated for years to be in politics. Who really wants to be in politics? But I will say it has been a great process. I have enjoyed going door to door, meeting people, and just hearing their questions, hearing their concerns. And I thank you all so much for giving me this opportunity. And vote Kim Shipley in 12 days.
Thank you. Mr. Bailey, 2 minutes for a closing statement.
Thank you, Joe. 2002, I campaigned on 0 appeals and a friendly, courteous staff. Prior to that, our administration, we were averaging nearly 100 appeals per year. We have got that down to less than 1 appeal per year. That means increased customer satisfaction for you guys, our constituents. Most of that is due to our friendly and courteous staff, the best in the state. I'll hold them up to anybody in the state. You come in, you're going to be rated on efficiently and courteously. If we have a problem, you're going to get to see me. That's the kind of that's what you deserve. It's a customer service, a customer satisfaction that you guys deserve when you come in your PVA office. As far as efficiency, we've started one of the first PVA websites in the state. If you're a realtor, if you're a banker, insurance agent, or just a citizen that wants to get on the website and look at people's assessment, there's a minimum fee for that. But it's the most efficient way that we can get our information to the public. You can sit at your desk if you're a realtor and look at comp sales. $100 a year is what our fee is for our website. Efficiency, customer satisfaction, that's what you guys deserve. And I'm asking you to go to the polls on November 6th and re-elect Brad Bailey, the People's PVA. Thank you.
Thank you both for your participation. Let's give them a round of applause.
Still didn't get all my points. I forgot something. Well, you start again.
Our next candidates will be for the Barren County Judge Executive. Thank you.
You have notepad and you will write any notes while they're asking you questions over there. Okay. Use that.
Well, Joe. How's Box? He's doing okay, but they are taking him to Nashville. Oh, yeah? He's got a leaky heart valve, so they're going to take him down there to repair that valve. Oh, really? They hopefully get that done tomorrow. But I think he'll do good. Everything's good so far.
Feel free to write any notes on this while they're talking.
That's 10 seconds. It's 30. Yeah. So I'll hold it to 20. You
got to not have notes, though. You can't take notes. You can't bring notes up here. Like, you can write something down while you're doing it. Oh, okay. You got to decide. Sure. Coin toss, whoever wins gets the first question. Whoever loses gets the opening statement first. And then if you didn't get the opening statement first, you get the closing statement. How many questions do we have? You're going to get 3 questions. Each have 2 minutes for opening and then closing statement. Anyone who would like to call in there? You call it? Hands. Ms. Tills, your first question.
Fighting a cold.
My judge exec question.
Not good.
Awesome. This will be a 3 question.
Lily's doing the first one, I'll do the second.
Sounds great. Appreciate it.
If I could go ahead and have your attention, we'll go ahead and get started with our next race. Our next candidates are for Barren County Judge Executive. They are to my right, Republican Gary Tillman. To my left, Democrat Michael Hale. Each candidate will get 2 minutes for an opening statement. Mr. Tillman, you'll go first.
Good evening, everybody. Apologize to you. I'm trying to take a cold, so I'm trying to work through all that stuff. But anyhow, it's an opportunity tonight that I really appreciate having with you all. I want to thank you all for hosting this and letting us be able to discuss what we're trying to do as candidates and giving you an opportunity to have a choice come November the 6th. I've been involved in leadership roles ever since I was a kid. I had the opportunity of, as a youngster, to be involved in 4-H, FFA, and Boy Scouts. In those things, they give you an opportunity to be able to get out in front of people, to be able to talk, be able to think on your feet and make some decisions whether they are short decisions or long-term decisions, they give you that opportunity. Been in this area well, first off, let me go back. I'm a graduate of the University of Kentucky, just like Brad, an animal science degree on that, and also have other credits from beyond that, working in the master's as well. But as I got out, the first job I had was to be a county extension agent for agriculture, and that's what I've done my entire career. Started out in Monroe County in 1979 and worked over there until 1985 when Faye Atherton, who was the county agent here, many of you all may remember Faye, retired. So I've had an opportunity to do a lot of things as we got into my career. I've had 35 years of experience in leadership and working on all that kind of stuff, and I feel the opportunity now to re-enter that field and offer my leadership again for Barren County.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hale, 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you everyone who had a hand in putting this in. And what I really want to say thank you is to our young people, our young leaders, future leaders of this county have came to show an interest in tonight. I am Judge Michael Hale. I've been your county judge executive for 4 years, a position that I truly love. The past 4 years, I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about the community, learned a lot about the people in the community. I've had to make some tough decisions. I've made those decisions, and I haven't backed down from those decisions. We have more decisions to make. I want to make a difference in this county. I am dedicated. I have the compassion. I am a hands-on judge, and I will continue to be a hands-on judge. Once again, thank you.
All right, we are ready for our questions. These candidates will be answering 3 questions each. First question will be directed to Mr. Hale first.
Mr. Hale, do you think the Barren County Economic Development Authority in its current structure is working? Why or why not?
Yes, it is working, and I'll tell you why. For 4 years, we have brought people to the table. There are certain aspects of this county that did not have a voice in economic development. We brought in Cave City. We brought in Park City, the front door to Barren County. We brought them to the table to make decisions. We have landed 13 new companies, whether it's new build, whether it's expansion, whether it's relocation. We've created several jobs out of that as well. And the structure of the economic development is working. It will continue to work. We will continue to bring people to the table. And let's not forget our folks in Temple Hill, in Austin, in Hiceville, and Railton. We bring those folks to the table as well. Everyone's voice is important. But the structure of the Economic Authority has a lot of great ideas on it. And we go after companies. We're aggressive. And we pull in the same direction. With the leadership, the intelligence that we have on this board, they're go-getters. They don't back down from challenges. And I'm proud to serve with these folks.
Mr. Tillman, 2 minutes on the same question.
Economic Development Authority here is an extremely important committee to work on with their board and try to get a lot of things accomplished here. One thing that had me to enter into this race was looking at economic development. I've been here since '85. I've seen a lot of growth and early on, and at this point in time, we have some growth issues that we need to face up. One thing about it, as county judge executive, I feel like the importance of that is we need to be making a presence in Frankfort, working with the Cabinet of Economic Development and others up there to try to recruit more growth and to be like all the other counties in the state to do that. I'm of the understanding that maybe that has been lacking in the last few years, and we need to make that presence known a little more often. One thing about it, that's the big role I want to be. I want to be out there and serve our people. My main reason to grow here or to be here in this race is to get Barren County growing again and get us more activity, recruit more jobs, and we see a lot of differences in what's happening. One of the studies that I saw recently from the Labor Bureau was the fact that of possibly a lot of jobs that we have lost over the years, and we are needing to recruit those jobs. We're seeing it go to other counties, and we need to make sure that we are more active at that, more aggressive on that, and that's where I want to try to serve and make us grow again.
Mr. Hill, one more minute on this topic.
Yes, economic development and recruitment has changed in the past 25 and 30 years. You take example Dana Corporation. They were going out in 2015 when I came in as judge. I took that opportunity to start going after companies such as tech companies and coding companies. We have to adapt. Industry is important, don't get me wrong. But a lot of those jobs are going away. It's going away across the United States. And you didn't want to get into a war with Dana Corporation, who is a global company that trade on stock market. So we took that opportunity to go after good paying jobs that makes ends meet. $10 an hour and $12 an hour, you're broke at the end of the week when you pay your rent and you pay your health care. So we went after good paying jobs. And we've been very successful at that.
Mr. Tillman, an additional minute.
One of the things, as I started to mention earlier, was the fact that when you look at the figures from the statistics, a study was done and released in 2017 that showed in the Brad area, there are 10 counties in the Brad area. In that 10 counties, 8 of those counties have had good growth on the manufacturer level. They have seen a lot of that growth go on. One county didn't have any change. That was Edmonson County. Barren County, in that study, lost 536 jobs. We've got to replace those jobs. Those are statistics that we have to improve on.
All right, we're ready for our second question. This will be directed first to Mr. Tillman.
Mr. Tillman, as overseer of the road department, where are the greatest needs in Barren County?
The first thing that my leadership style is much different than my opponent. I'm a leader that wants to put together good departments where we have the road department folks that actually are day-to-day and want to direct those things, and me not to look over the shoulder all the time. The other thing is that within that, I drive across the roads in Barren County, and several of those roads have had some repairs, but I've also been on some that have not had repairs yet, and we have to deal with that. So the road department needs to have the manpower, needs to have the equipment, needs to have the opportunities to be able to fix those things in a way that we can serve all Barren Countyans with good quality roads and keep them up once we've got them built.
Mr. Hill, 2 minutes on this topic.
Yes, the Barren County Road Department is one of the best in the state of Kentucky. Now, keep in mind, I am a hands-on judge. When we have folks that have to take off to take vacation or they call in sick, I am there to fill in if needed. Given my background in farming and construction and emergency responder, those things are just natural for me. There's not a piece of equipment down there that I can't operate. That's not micromanaging. That's just being a leader. And I don't say, go on. I say, come on. Let's get this done. Let's take care of this. Safety improvements we've made. We had trucks that were breaking down on the side of the road. We have been able to buy trucks and new equipment, safety equipment. We actually invited folks from other counties to come in and compare road departments and to make sure that there may be something that they see that we're not doing. And they did. They pointed out some things that we made improvements on. We've increased our staff. We've increased the pay of our staff. We haven't had turnover in the road department in 3 years, where we couldn't keep anyone the first year or the previous years. So we've made a lot of improvements, and I'm going to continue to support our road department. If they need me to run a weed eater, you better believe I'll be there. If they need me on a shovel, you better believe I'll be there. If they need me to push snow, you best believe I will be there.
Mr. Tillman, you have an additional minute on this question?
Well, I also come from farm life and have farmed all my life, and one thing I've learned a lot of times to do is I hate to load hay twice. I always want to if I've got a road problem, I want to get it fixed and get it fixed right the first time, not simply patch it. The other thing is that when we have an opportunity, I think we need to work with all the magistrates on the fiscal court and actually have an opportunity for those folks to have input on where high priorities are for those folks to get things fixed. I know we can't do it all every day and overnight, but we have to draw it out over time, and that's an important thing to set up the right type of schedule for those things. But I'm going to work with our magistrates, and we all work together as a team to get all this fixed.
Mr. Hale, one more minute.
Well, when it comes to the magistrates, I listen to what they have to say. Their job is to drive those roads. Their job is to report to the county road supervisor with problems in their districts. A lot of times I receive calls from those magistrates. A lot of times I'll say, hey, what do you think we should do? And, if they can fix the problem and take care of it, by all means, let's do it. Let's have at it. It takes money to fix things. I wasn't going to throw statistics out, but it takes $50,000 to $60,000 to pave a mile of road, or you can chip seal it for $20,000. And now we've learned that fog sealing works just as good as asphalt, so you can do it for half the price. And we have fixed a lot of roads. On top of that, with these roads, I've been able to bring about another $1.5 million from Frankfort to this county to fix roads. So I've went to Frankfort. I've talked to folks in Frankfort, but the best thing, I have invited people from Frankfort to come to Barren County to see exactly what I'm talking about, and it's worked out well.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. All right, we're ready for our third question. This will be directed first to Mr. Hill.
Mr. Hill, during a recent debate, you suggested Barren County's economic development is strong. Mr. Tillman, you disagreed with Hale's suggestion. Please explain your position and back up your assertions about the state of economic development.
Well, once again, when I talk about economic development, we don't just have 3 or 4 people making decisions for this whole county. We have numerous people making decisions about this county from all sectors of this county. And their voices are important. We've brought diversity. We have met challenges and we haven't backed down. And it's high time, in my opinion, that we brought all those people in and changed the culture. As I have said already, manufacturing jobs across the United States are going away. High-tech jobs are coming in. You think about your education you're receiving right now. It's geared more towards coding. It's geared more towards IT. And the Economic Development Authority is going after those folks. It's nothing for us to jump in a car and go and knock on a door of a company to say, hey, we hear you may want to expand. So we're here to maybe hope you may want to expand in Barren County. So our economic authority is strong. It's only going to get better. You know why? Because we're listening to what you have to say as young people. And we're putting that into action.
Mr. Tillman, 2 minutes.
Economic development is something that we need to spend a lot of time on in Barren County and try to make as much of a team effort to get this accomplished. We have really good leaders here that are working strong to push for Barren County to grow again. And that's been my whole approach to this. So I'm looking at the future, and I want to be able to work with folks to put this together. The thing with economic development is we have to work as a team to do that. I want to be working with those folks and spend time in Frankfurt, talk to the different places up there to see what we can find, and really work hard to get this growth to happen for Barren County. As we worked on that part of it, we need to look and see what's happening to Barren County, what's happened in the past. Some interesting figures that I found recently from the Economic Development Cabinet in Frankfurt that were released was, if you look on a per capita basis in Kentucky, on the amount of investment that's been made in economic development since the December of 2015, that has worked out to be $4,074 per person per capita in the state of Kentucky. With looking at the figures that have been brought to Barren County since that point, with our population of just under 44,000 folks, we received $730 of economic development growth here in this county. So we're not getting all that we need, and we need to go after more of it. And that's where I really want to try to work with economic development folks to get as much as we can.
Thank you. Mr. Hale, you have 1 additional minute.
Yes. If you go on what's called the website to Think Kentucky, you will see the investment that's been made in Kentucky and in Barren County. Kentucky alone had a $15 billion investment, and $40 million of that landed right here in Barren County. That speaks volumes, folks. That speaks volumes, and that landed within the last 16 to 18 months. We did the legwork in the first 2 years to land that. And yes, we used Frankfurt help. We sure did. But if you look at some of the things that we have done, and what I've heard Frankfurt say over and over, you guys are pulling in the same direction. You guys have came together. You look at our school out there. We have one of the top-notch ETCs in the state of Kentucky. Hey, that didn't happen by accident, folks. That didn't happen by accident. We were told personally that happened because we all worked together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Mr. Tillman, 1 more minute.
Talking about the school system, that is a great facility that's been built out there. I think we need to commend our schools for having the forethought and the drive to be able to create such activities and such facilities to be able to help our kids out like that. I get back to the investment that I mentioned earlier before I run out of time. When you look at that figure, we're looking at Barren County getting about 17%, a little over 17% of what the total number is. So we've got an opportunity here to improve. My whole goal is to work for the economy of Barren County. We want to see Barren County grow. We want to see Barren County active, and we want to see it across the board. We want to be diversified in manufacturing. We want to see as much opportunity we can for our citizens to be able to find jobs as they would like to have, and be able to do what they want to do, whether it's going to be from any form of vocation or job opportunities.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Each candidate now will get 2 minutes for a closing statement, and going first for that will be Mr. Hale.
Thank you very much. And once again, I want to thank everyone for listening to us and taking an interest in what we have to say. I want to tell you at this point, Barren County is in great shape. Barren County, we have laid the groundwork in this first 4 years for big things to happen. And you're going to see big things happen. You can't flip a light switch and it happen overnight. It's just not going to happen that way. But it's took a lot of people pulling in the same direction. Not one person does it. We don't have the magic wand. It's not going to happen, as I say, overnight. But I can tell you this. I will continue to be your county judge executive. I will be your leader. I will be your voice, as I have. Now, yes, I probably don't go to Frankfurt as much as I should, but once again, I invite Frankfurt down here to see our beauty, what we have in our county. I can go up there and talk about potholes all day long. I can talk about tourism dollars all day long. But I want them to come down here and see our county. Our county. I want them to see what we have down here. That way they know exactly what I'm talking about. I ask for your vote and your support on November the 6th. I greatly appreciate that. I want you to know that I take this position very, very seriously. Very seriously. And I'm always sticking up for Barren County. Barren County, I want Barren County to be the leader in the state of Kentucky. And we are well on our way, folks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hale. Mr. Tillman, 2 minutes for a closing statement.
I really appreciate the opportunity to visit with you all tonight and really look forward to the opportunity to serve you as your Barren County Judge Executive and ask for your vote and ask for all the votes of people out there that are watching this on TV tonight. And on November 6th, we're going to be able to do great things. One thing that I want to make sure, though, is that we have opportunity in Frankfurt that we've never had before. We've got good legislators, but we've got folks that are hometown folks up there that are wanting to help us, and we need to take advantage of that. They are really wanting to work with Barren County, and we have a hometown guy up there that's as a cabinet leader, and we want to take advantage of that. We work together extremely well, and I want to be able to offer that. Folks, I want to be a promoter of Barren County. I want to promote growth. I want to promote opportunities for folks. I want to be able to go out and find things, look outside, be able to do things that are going to be productive for Barren County folks, and look forward to that opportunity. So if I could ask you one more time, I would really appreciate your vote come November the 6th.
All right, thank you both for your participation. Let's give them a round of applause. Our final candidates coming up will be for state representative. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Appreciate you coming.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
We're going to do a coin flip when he gets up here. Just decide who goes first, and that's it. You're more welcome to write anything you want to on these notepads, questions are being asked.
Even 5, doesn't matter.
Yeah, wish I could say we'll see.
Joe Meyer.
Nice to meet you. It's been great. First time I've done this. Yeah. I'm learning. You're doing a good job.
Thank you.
It's long.
It's been a little bit of a long night.
I'm kind of nervous by the time it's like, hey, how you doing? I'm just going to look at the children. I appreciate the children.
I think I wrote give Chrissy extra shout out at the end. She's
you did.
She's all good.
I'm on a lot of really good ones.
So when can I actually write? Can I write right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. That'd be great. Okay. Whoever wins gets the first question. The loser gets to give their opening statement first. And then whoever gives the opening statement first, the other person gets the closing statement first.
Okay. I'm fine no matter what it is.
You're going to get 2 questions each.
Okay.
And then you get an opening statement, and you get 2 questions, and then you get a closing statement.
That'll be showing somebody. This guy right here. You're not gonna drop it, are you? You're not gonna drop the timer, are you? Okay.
Who wants to call it?
Latoya, you go ahead.
Tails.
It's heads, so you'll get first question, you'll get opening statement first, and you'll do closing statement.
That sounds great. Okay.
I'm opening statement first.
You said we got 2 questions, Daniel?
Yep.
Yes, after your opening statement, you'll get you 2 questions, and you'll have time for rebuttal.
Okay. Are they hermetically sealed?
Right here. Nobody's seen them except for those 4 people. Yeah.
Do you know who Johnny Carson is? Are you?
Yeah, but slightly before my time, but I know of him.
He was the best talk show guy ever.
Yeah.
He did a thing, he was Cognac and Magnificent, wore this big, like, ballistic kind of hat, and he'd do this, and they'd have questions, and he'd say some crazy statement, and he'd read the question afterwards. They were always funny.
Yeah, they were funny. They were good. Okay, if I could have your attention, please, we'll go ahead and get started with our final race. Heads up, everybody.
There you go, Joe. Good.
Everybody will take their seats. We'll get started with our final race of the night. Our final candidates are for state representative. They are, to my right, Democrat Latoya Drake. To my left, Republican Steve Riley. Each candidate gets 2 minutes for their opening statement. And Ms. Drake, you'll go first.
Hello, good evening. I'm thankful to be here, and I'm really humbled to be here. My name is Latoya Drake, and I'm running for state representative in District 23. That district covers Barren County, which you know, and a sliver of Warren County. I grow things. I grow minds in classrooms and other settings, and I grow food in gardens. And it's important to me that our community grow. And growing up here, my mom raised me. She did it a lot by herself, and she helped grow this, what you see here today. But she didn't do it all alone. She had supports. She had support from the church. She had supports through public resources. We had the school system, Glasgow school system, where I graduated in 2002. We had community, we had friends, we had lots of good supports. It's important to me as state representative that I preserve and strengthen those supports that made me be able to sit before you today. And that's what I intend to do in Frankfort. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Drake. Mr. Riley, 2 minutes.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Matt Gardner, Coach Gardner, and the AP class for being here and being part of civics in our government. Thank you to the press for being here. Appreciate you guys being here and what you do every day. Thank you to the audience. It's important that we have an informed people that are interested in what goes on in government and try to stay informed. Of course, my name is Steve Riley, and I've had the great experience of being your state representative for the last 2 years. A little bit about me and my experience. I grew up in Bowling Green to a father who was a Baptist preacher and a school teacher, and a mom who was a teller at a bank. Just good, hard-working, decent people. And I graduated from Warren Easton and went to school at WKU, or Western as I like to call it, because that's what we called it for years, and majored in history and minored in political science. And after I got through college, I went to Lindsey Wilson College and worked for 3 years. I taught history, I taught political science, I was a boys and girls basketball coach at the same time, which is kind of crazy. And it was a great experience for me to be in a small school setting. Then I met the love of my life and got married. And she said that we weren't going to make the kind of money I was making at Lindsey Wilson, so we better go find us a job somewhere else. And one of the best decisions that we made was moving to Glasgow. It's been our home for 34 years. It's been a great place to live and a great place to grow a family. I have 2 sons, Matthew, who is a dentist, who has worked in Glasgow and now working in Bowling Green, and hopefully soon he'll be back in Glasgow. He's working on that. And his son, Kevin, who works in the Barren County school system at Houchins Industries. And I also have a daughter-in-law who is a teacher at Eastern Elementary. And I love my daughter-in-law deeply. She's a great, great lady. And fortunately, 7 months ago, she gave us a grandson, who is the apple of our family's eye. And that's a little bit about me. And you found out a little bit about my experience. I think my time is over. So
thank you, Mr. Riley. All right, we are ready for our first question. And this question will first be directed to Mr. Riley.
Mr. Riley, do you support the new sales tax on services? Why or why not?
That's an interesting question. Obviously, we had a new sales tax that expanded on some services, and at the same time, we lowered the income tax rate by 1 cent, basically, which ends up being about 16%, from 6% to 5%, and at the same time, also reduce the corporate tax from 6% to 5%. It's always hard to make decisions that deal with revenue and what you're going to do in that situation. Obviously, we were in a tough situation for this reason. The pension system has been underfunded substantially for years. In fact, in 2014, I think it was, the contribution to the pension system was $1.4 billion. This last session, we put $3.2 billion into the pension system to prop it up, because we can't be a house of cards and just end. So basically, in order to do that and to keep service as much as we possibly could, we had to figure out a way to raise revenue. So that's the route we went. I do think you're going to see a strong possibility of looking at going to a revenue system that goes to more of a lowering income tax and expanding taxes on things such as services, and also maybe an increase in sales tax. I think that's always a possibility. But the one thing about a state as opposed to the federal government, they don't balance their budget at all. In the state, we're required by law to balance our budget. So we have to do the things necessary to do that. And sometimes you have to make hard decisions. All decisions you make aren't, I'm 100% for this and 0% against it. Sometimes you're 55% for something and 45% against it, and you got to make a hard decision, and that's what we had to do.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Mrs. Drake, 2 minutes on that same question.
And the question was, do I support the sales tax increase, correct? And I appreciate my opponent's response and him saying that sometimes you have to make hard decisions, but I don't appreciate these hard decisions being made on the back of working folks. The sales tax was a flat rate tax, and what that tax is a recessive tax, and what that did was lower taxes for the folks who make the most money, the top 10% of our population in Kentucky, and raise those taxes for us working folks. So what is always equal is not always equitable. So it's important for me to be just and fair in how we create tax reform and divvy up taxes among people. Like I said, I was born here to a mother who struggled at times financially. So I see this service tax on things that working folks buy a lot, and I worry that 5% to someone like my mother is different than 5% to someone who works in a higher paying job. So that's concerning to me. So I don't support that.
Thank you, Mr. Drake. Mr. Riley, one more minute.
Well, one thing I'd like to reply on that is that a lot of those increases in services were things that high-income people usually get involved in. Golf course fees, fees to country clubs, fees to other organizations. So a lot of that increase in services was passed more on high-income people than it was low-income people. And I think that was something that we were very cognizant of when we looked at that, to make sure that we were trying to be fair when we went over that revenue increase.
Ms. Drake, 1 minute.
Yes, many of those affected luxury items, but they also affected items like car washing services, or I know my friend, he owns a window washing services, and they are charged for taxes for that. That's also affected the cigarette rates, and many people who are in lower socioeconomic statuses have bad habits like smoking cigarettes. That's the way they cope with their stressors of their world. So that is a tax that affects poor people. Additionally, they're also taxing pet care services, which many people of all economic statuses have pets. So, yes.
All right, thank you. We are ready for our second question. And this will be first directed to Mrs. Drake.
Mr. Drake, Mr. Riley, what are 3 or 4 pieces of legislation approved over the past 2 years that you're most proud of? And Mr. Drake, what are 3 or 4 pieces of legislation approved over the past 2 years that you did not support?
3 or 4 pieces of legislation that I did not support. I did not support the legislation related to charter schools. I feel like the charter schools in our community, while at some places in our state could be a good idea, that could revert us to socioeconomic segregation, which in turn leads to racial segregation, which we're not far removed from that. My grandmother went to school in a segregated school in this community. So that's concerning to me. Additionally, I don't support House Bill 366, which is the service tax increase. And a third piece of legislation that I do not support is hard to come by right now. So I will rebuttal when we get there.
Mr. Riley, 2 minutes on that question.
Well, I think the first piece is House Bill 1 we passed this last session, which dealt with foster care, foster children, the adoption process. We have so many young people in our state, in our country, that don't have anybody. For whatever reason, they've been abandoned by their families. For whatever reason, they end up being raised by their grandparents, and they get put in the foster care program, or they need to be adopted. And we have made this process so difficult for families. Expensive, long, and this bill was designed to expedite and to streamline the process for young children to be adopted. We also, in that bill, it dealt with a lot of foster care programs. I've been involved in a couple bills for foster children that I've been very proud of myself. Educational stability, sustainability bill for foster children. Other bills that have been involved that help foster children in their situations because they didn't ask for the problems they're in. And my heart, as far as an educator is concerned, is for young people, and I wanted to be involved in that. Another bill that I sponsored in the House and we got sponsored in the Senate also was a telemedicine bill, telehealth bill. And this bill basically, which passed, basically will allow you to have an online visit with your doctor, and it will allow you to expedite that process because too often, I think you guys all know, you'll go to the doctor's office and wait for 2 hours. Doctors are busy, their group of patients is long, and this bill will allow you to meet with them online in a situation where you can still go to work and do whatever you need to do, and yet you don't have to waste all that time sitting in a doctor's office and doing those type of things. So I'm pretty proud that I was involved in that bill. That bill will also be has a chance to be a great benefit in mental health.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Ms. Drake, 1 minute.
To speak to additional legislation that I was unhappy with, the pension bill for sure. That was not read appropriately before it was voted on, and I don't think that that's appropriate. The first step to being a representative is to making sure that you understand how bills will affect the community where you are. So they should be read before you vote on them. Additionally, to speak to the telemedicine bill that he just mentioned, that concerns me a bit because I don't think that allows for a complete evaluation of patients. I guess that it could work in some situations, but it's just like concerning, and I'd like to hear more about that.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
1 minute, Mr. Riley.
That bill's not designed. Thanks, Latoya. I'm glad you let me get a chance to explain that a little bit more. That bill's not going to be designed for every visit. Okay. I think that's a thing between the doctor and their patient because sometimes, I'll give a minor example. I get poison ivy real bad. So if I'm in Frankfurt and I can't see my doctor and I've got to do the people's work, I don't want to go to an urgent clinic, sit for 2 hours to do something that my doctor can do by examining me through Skype or FaceTime and those type of things. And I think that saves a lot of time for workers and for people in general. So that bill's not going to be one that provides all services for all situations because it can't, because so many times doctors have to do hand-on visits, and this requires ones that don't need to be as hands-on.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Okay, each candidate will now get 2 minutes for a closing statement, and Mr. Riley will go first.
Well, again, I'd like to thank everybody for being here tonight. I don't know who was involved in getting this process done or who is responsible for this, but I think it's important for people to see us and to be around us and know who we are and what we're about. We're very fortunate to live in this county, a county in which people care about each other and in which people hold each other accountable. I think that's very important. The process of running is a neat process because you get a chance to talk to people, you get a chance to be involved in people, and also you get a chance to meet other people. And a lot of times that involves the candidates. Like I didn't know Miss Drake before this happened, and she's a fine young lady. You are a lot younger than me, I promise. And she's a fine young lady. It's been a good process to get to know people like her. We have really good candidates in these races. And I feel good about the future of Barren County. I feel good about the future of Glasgow because of the people that we've got involved in this. As far as me is concerned, I ask for your vote. I do think, people ask me all the time about this in Frankfort. Do you feel like your career prepared you for this job? Oh, yeah. When you're an educator and a coach and a teacher, you deal with people all the time. You deal with problems all the time. You have to make decisions all the time. You have to make tough decisions a lot. And so I think my past and my experience has prepared me greatly to be involved in public service and what we do in Frankfort. I oftentimes use the term, I don't consider myself a politician. I never had any desire to get involved in politics, never thought that would be something I'd be involved in. I consider myself a public servant. I have served the people of Barren County for 31 years in education. I've been fortunate enough to serve for 2 years as a state representative, and I hope you give me the opportunity to serve in that role for more years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Mr. Drake, 2 minutes for a closing statement.
Like I said earlier, I'm really humbled to be here today. This place made me. It raised me. I was born and raised in Glasgow, and it's kind of unbelievable and a young girl's dream to be here. Growing up here, I didn't see any women in leadership who looked like me. I didn't see any black women in politics. I didn't see very many black people in general in places of leadership. And now as I've entered this new role as a leader in our community, I still don't see very many faces who look like myself. So that's the main reason that I'm running. Whether I win or lose, I've learned a lot, and I'm so thankful that for you guys who do support me. I've got some of my children that I call them in the audience, and I never would have met them had I not had this experience. And what I lack in political experience, I make up in professional and personal experiences. My professional experience ranges from substance abuse counselor to case manager in the dependency court system, to first step service coordinator, to nutrition educator in the middle school, and now I'm working as a community educator with UK. So I'm really excited and want to do a good job and continue to serve this community in whatever way that God and you guys see fit. I know that I don't have as much experience with policy as my opponent, but what I am is I'm smart, I'm connected to the community, and I understand what working folks need because that's who I am. And I'm also a real person. So I'd appreciate your vote on November the 6th, and thank you.
Thank you both for being here. Just in closing, again, we would very much like to thank you all for being here. We know it's been a little bit of a long night, but we appreciate your patience and your observation and your attention. We do want to thank our local media sponsors and the Barren County Republican and Democratic parties, as well as Circuit Court Clerk Chrissy Cole-Fields for making this event possible. More than anything, make sure you go out and vote on November the 6th. Have a